So, hello everybody, and a big welcome to the BMF's first virtual AGM and annual conference. We'd like to say a really big thank you to you all for joining us today. We really do appreciate your time. Before we start, I'm going to hand over to Ben, who's hosting the technical element today, and he's going to help you to get the most out of today's event. So I'll just pass over to Ben.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, if things go wrong, it's all on me. So just a very quick few bits of key information. You'll be on mute by default. You can come off mute, so stay on mute so we don't get this kind of background noise problems. Hopefully keep your cameras on so we can see people's faces, and you can click the kind of gallery view to get a sense of everyone in the room and give us a wave, which is great. But also to get the most out of today, I suggest choosing sort of speaker view or side-by-side view. That should be in the top right-hand corner of your screen. That way you'll be able to see the content that's being shared and the speaker at the time. A couple of other quick things. There's also reactions that you can use, which are sort of a thumbs up, clapping hand and a raising your hand. So there might be points at which they'll be helpful to use. And there's also the chat feature. So please direct, for the chat, you can direct questions to individual people or share it with everyone. Any technical issues, just direct it directly to me, which is Ben Fuchs. For questions for the panelists, direct that to everyone so we can see it there, or direct it to sort of, them or Kevin as the host. And hopefully, you know, if you drop off at any time, you can come back in and I'll be letting you in through the waiting room. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Ben. Well, my name is Kevin Parr, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Managing Director of PGS Team. I'm extremely privileged to be hosting today's first BMF Members Day conference online. The theme this morning is very much about sustaining excellence, and I don't think this has ever been more relevant than in the current world and trading environment we all find ourselves in. Today's webinar is being broadcast and recorded using the Zoom platform, which I'm sure you're all very familiar with now. Who'd have thought, hey, for those of you into your music, that Aretha Franklin would not only go down in history of one of the world's most iconic singers, but also a visionary for communication with her song, Who's Zoomin'? First recorded in 1984 and released to the world on July 1985. Well, 35 years on and we're all Zooming. I seem to be Zooming permanently, everybody, every single day. I'm also very much aware that there's a new dress code that has developed since COVID-19 arrived in the UK, specifically for Zoom calls, and it's now probably taking place on this very webinar. It's a striking combination of business smart shirt up top, for some even a jacket, one or both visible on screen, then off screen and below the waist, strictly out of view. We have had everything from Hawaiian shorts with flip-flops to jogging bottoms with trainers, even pajamas. Well, normally I would ask for a show of hands as to who's wearing one of these winning combinations today, but I thought this morning we would have a show of stands. So as in everybody standing up to reveal the truth behind the new fashion trend. So if you'd all like to stand up and we can see whether my theory is correct. I can't see you, but I'm hoping you might be able to see each other. And you just know that the guys that are sitting down are the ones in shorts, or maybe something more relaxing, I don't know. Seriously, we would really appreciate it if you could please engage with today's webinar, submit questions for the Q&A session via the chat facility. Today's webinar will take around 4 hours and we're aiming to finish at around 1:30. We've got a packed agenda, so we have a great lineup of speakers joining us today. And as we have seen from the programme that we sent you, it's going to be a packed morning. As always, these events don't happen without the much valued support of the generous sponsors. So a big thank you to our sponsors today, Marshall Stone Market, who are our headline sponsor, Kerridge Commercial Systems, who are sponsoring the Building a Sustainable Britain session, UK Construction Week for our keynote speakers, and ECI, who are obviously the sponsors of the BMF Apprenticeship Diploma in Merchant Management session. A big thank you also to Mike Costain of Installer Magazine for arranging this webinar to be technically hosted. Obviously, you've met Ben. There's also Paddy Kelly in the background doing a great job. Our technical consultants who are hosting this Zoom webinar, please give us a wave, guys, and you can see who they are. No pressure, now they know who you are, Ben, Paddy. At the end, obviously, of the Building a Sustainable Britain session, we'll be including a short Q&A session. So please submit your questions via the Zoom chat during the speeches, and we'll endeavour to answer as many as we can. We can assure you that those that we are unable to answer will receive a response following the event, and all of the questions will be collated by the BMF team. Our keynote speakers today are Steve Backley, OBE, and Roger Black, MBE, who will also host the Optimising Performance and Mindsetting Taster session, which is part of the workshops at 12:30. So between 12:30 and 1:30, we have a selection of BMF training and BMF membership services taster sessions. You'll be able to attend 2 sessions of your choice, and you'll see a pop-up on your screen saying join the breakout session. Click on the pop-up and join the breakout room. If you wish to stay in the main conference room, which is where Steve and Roger will be delivering their workshop, please do not click on that icon. We'll take you through this again later on today. So to get things underway with the BMF AGM, I would like to welcome and hand over to Richard Hill, the BMF chairman. Richard will hand over to Mark Smith, BMF Treasurer, for his financial presentation. Then Richard will pass the baton to John Newcombe, CEO of the BMF, who will in turn pass over to Nathan Garrett. So I'm sure Roger Black will be monitoring the 4x4 handover very closely today. So please welcome BMF Chairman Richard Hill to start proceedings.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 60th AGM of the BMF. For me, this is my first as chairman, having taken the role at the beginning of July. And it is a great pleasure and privilege to have such a role, and it has been an absolute delight to get to know the BMF team. Young, relative, lively, and totally driven to deliver service and value to you, the membership. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the board for welcoming me and for giving me good support as and when it was necessary. From an activity viewpoint, this year has so far been different. I think we all realise that. The pandemic has created fresh challenges and opportunities for us all. But regarding the BMF, John will tell you more on this later, but suffice to say that the role and influence of the BMF has grown significantly this year, and that, I believe, creates great opportunity for us, the BMF and its membership going forward. Ben, next slide, please. So, to the formalities of the AGM, and if during the AGM you have any questions, do put them on the chat facility, and subject to time, we'll answer them now or at some point afterwards. So, the AGM looks back at our financial year ending March 2020. And this time period covers my predecessor, Peter Hindle's final year as chairman. And Peter was chairman for 6 years. And with John, they really got the BMF to its position where it is today. So my thanks to Peter for a very good job, very well done. And from all of us, our best wishes in your retirement. Next slide. Ben, thank you. So our formal AGM, please note point number 1, issues regarding the Competition Act. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Point number 2, to confirm the minutes of the 59th Annual General Meeting. These minutes have been on our website for the last 3 weeks, so I'm sure some of you have been there and read them. May I ask for a proposer and a seconder, and for Richard Ellingthorne to let me know who they may be.
Yeah, Peter Hallett has proposed. Just need a seconder, please. John Rosowski has seconded the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. Thank you, John. Good. Number 3, the financial statements for the year ending March 2020. Here, I would like to hand over to our Honorary Treasurer, Mark Smith.
Thank you, Richard. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Smith. I'm the Financial Director of MKM Building Supplies, and I'm in my 5th year as Treasurer of the BMF. I wanted also to mention Tracy Wotton, who is the BMF's financial controller, and she's been in post now for 2 years, so we have a fairly stable team. Our external auditors are Mazars, and Bob Johnson is our audit engagement partner. Just trying to move the slides, Ben. Let's see, could you move me on, Ben? Thank you. So first of all, the objectives of the finance function, these remain the same, and I put these up last year. But again, could you move the slide for me, Ben, please? To be prudent custodians of the BMF assets, to provide financial planning in support of the BMF's goals and objectives, and to provide timely and accurate financial statements. I think they're probably the goals of most finance functions, and that remains the case for the BMF. So we'll look at the highlights of the year to the 31st of March 2020, which clearly was pre-COVID, and I'll make some comments about what's happened since the 31st of March. But our accounts have now been finalised and audited, and we have a clean audit report from Mazars. And indeed, probably the most relevant point in that is that we've passed the going concern test, which I think has been a concern for all businesses, given the great uncertainty we've faced in the world. So our operating revenues during the course of March, the 12 months of March 2020, increased by 5%. Our operating loss in the year was a small loss of about £10,000, which is equivalent to a similar loss to the prior year. But we did experience a very significant decrease in the value of our listed investments, which are managed by Charles Stanley. This was £250,000, and it predominantly occurred in February and March of this year as we started to enter the early pandemic period. We have seen some recovery of that since. You go again, thank you, Ben. So our cash and investments over the course of the year actually reduced by about £200,000, and that was primarily because of the listed investments and their valuation. Total membership of the BMF increased by 4% in the year, very important KPI for the trade association, and it's a very important step we're taking with the membership. And as Richard confirmed, the engagement over the last 6 months has been extraordinary with the circumstances we've all found ourselves in. Just looking at the financial history, we do every 2 years have the overseas conference, and that obviously provides a boost to revenue. So we saw that in 2019 and back in 2017, and we'll see the same in 2021. The conference is actually a break-even event, so there's no profit made by the BMF on that, but it obviously boosts the revenue quite significantly. You can see the large loss before tax, again coming back to predominantly to do with the fall in the investment valuation. So overall, the net assets of the trade association have fallen by that couple of £100,000, but still sit at a very healthy level of £4.3 million. And within that, we have £1.5 million of cash and investments. So we're in a very healthy position. Moving on to what's happened since the year end, which is very relevant to everybody. And we can report the following actions and impacts. Clearly, discretionary revenues, or what we would say are the chargeable value-added services that the trade association provides, have declined dramatically. Clearly very difficult to hold such events. So that revenue is reduced. The membership income, though, has been very strong, and we have commitments or payments for annual subscriptions from almost all of our members, which is very heartening. Over the years, we've tried to balance the revenue. In a normal year, the revenue is probably now split 50-50 between subscription income and value-added services. Our overhead costs have reduced significantly. Headcount has reduced through levers, and we've obviously accessed the job retention scheme and received some government support. But overall, in this 6-month period, our profits are ahead of plan, and the cash position remains strong, which is probably the most important point, and I'm sure the one that's consumed most of you in your own businesses. So to date, a healthy position. We're robustly placed. We're all speculating about what will happen over the next 6 to 12 months, and nobody knows the answer to that. But I think the BMF is in a good position to ride the waves. And the last point is we have seen some partial recovery of our investment income, our investment valuations, and the advice we've had very strongly from Charles Stanley is to stay calm and continue on. So we've not changed our investment strategy at all. We've left things as they are, and we're starting to see some recovery in value. So that's in essence the summary of where we are. I will now hand back to Richard to continue with the AGM agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 4. We need to endorse the election of the BMF board directors for the 2020-2021 year. And these directors are Tim Rowbottom from Collier and Catchpole, Charles Ledigo from Riser, Andrew Harrison, Travis Perkins, Shankar Patel from Lords, Ian Haldane from Haldane Fisher, and our honorary treasurer, Mark Smith from MKM Building Supplies. So what I propose is that we can't have a show of hands. So if there are any objections, please use the chat function. Otherwise, I will assume that the meeting endorses the election of these directors. Okay, thank you very much. And to number 5, to confirm the reappointment of Mazars as our auditors. And again, unless there are any objections, I will assume that they are reappointed. Thank you again. Any other business? Please use the chat box. Otherwise, thank you for listening. I'll close the annual general meeting, and we can now start really the meat of the Members' Day. And I pass over to John Newcombe, the CEO of the Builders Merchants Federation.
Okay, well, many thanks for that introduction, Richard. First of all, can everybody hear me? I can't see myself, so which I expected to do at this stage, but hopefully you can hear me. Many thanks for that introduction, and a warm welcome to you all from myself and the rest of the BMF team. As I can't see myself, Richard, can you just confirm that everybody can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, Ben.
Yes, I can hear you.
Normally you see yourself in the right-hand side, but I can't do that. So the theme of this year's conference is Sustaining Excellence. If we can have the slide, please, next slide. Sorry, the first slide, yeah, perfect. So the theme of this year's conference is Sustaining Excellence, and in the next 20 minutes or so, I'd like to share with you some of the BMF's achievements since last year's Members' Day, and outline some of our plans for next year in the context of this particular theme. It's great news that we have Marshalls as our headline sponsor for both this year and next year. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for their continued support. Kevin will be introducing Peter Hallett, Marshall's Trading Director, to say a few words shortly. But I'd also like to thank our event sponsors, Kerridge Commercial Systems, who are sponsoring the sustainability session today, UK Construction Week, who are sponsoring our 2 keynote speakers, Steve Backley and Roger Black, and ECI for sponsoring our 2 training programs later this morning. We all know how important it is to have sponsorship, particularly during this difficult time. So thanks to you all for your support. Okay, well, since last year's Members' Day, when we all met physically, I'd like to think that the BMF have continued to build on the foundations that we first laid down 8 years ago. Despite the severe impact of COVID-19 on our industry, our membership, which this time last year had reached 701 members, has actually continued to grow in the last 12 months. And I'm very pleased to announce it's now grown to 751 member companies. which is obviously an increase of 50 members since we met last year in September, but it represents a growth rate of over 130% in the last 8 years, and actually represents now our highest membership numbers since 1992. So your support means that we now have just under 400 merchant members who operate from 5,700 branches and actually account for 85% of the total merchant sector. We also represent over 350 supplier, service, associate and distributor members. So collectively, we have a combined turnover of £38 billion. And of course, we represent some of the biggest and best known brands in the industry. Over the last 12 months, we've set about building a team that would help us to drive membership and to ensure that we remain relevant to our members. And during the last 12 months, we've welcomed 2 new members to the team. Our membership and IT manager, Richard Johnson, highlighted here in green, and David Bate, who has joined us as our ETIM project manager. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank our regional chairmen who give up their very valuable time as busy merchants to head up each of our 11 BMF regions. And in particular, I'd like to welcome and thank our new chairman, Louise Paulson from Alresford Timber, and Alan Trail, who's taken over as chairman for the Scottish region from Alan works for M&T Builders Merchants. So thank you to you both. Again, another big thank you. Use this opportunity to thank our sector chairmen who run each of our product category and job specific forums. And particularly again, I welcome our new chairman, Simon Bicknell from Toolbank, who's taken over the new forum of tools fixings, workwear and PPE. The regional and forum meetings, which over the last few months, of course, we've had to hold virtually, continue to be a vital part of the BMF. And these simply would not happen without the support of each of our chairmen who are drawn from our merchant members. So thank you to you all for your contribution. I'd also like to make a special mention of our previous regional chairman for London and the South East, Paul Sexton, who, as many of you are aware, sadly passed away earlier this year. Paul was a massive supporter of the BMF and will always be remembered for getting the most members to attend any regional meeting, with well over 100 members attending last year's London and South East regional meeting at the new Spurs ground. Paul will forever be in our memory and will be sadly missed in the industry. Obviously, I have to also thank our board, every one of our BMF board members who give up their time free of charge, and particularly over the last few months, I think we've been meeting pretty much monthly, at the start of the crisis every 2 weeks. So they've had to attend more board meetings and of course virtual board meetings. And we hope to have our first physical board meeting in December. I want to say a particular welcome to our new chairman, Richard Hill, who's probably joined at the most difficult time to take over the BMF, with most of our meetings, of course, being virtual. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to wish Andrew Harrison a very happy retirement when he retires from Travis Perkins at the end of this year, but hopefully will continue to stay on as a BMF board member. We've got some great people working for the BMF, and I'm extremely proud to see the achievements of all of the team and the board recognised over the last 5 years at a number of trade association award ceremonies. And of course, as you are well aware, we've won several major awards. Now, as you're aware, there have been no industry events since February. And in the current environment, it's actually very difficult to imagine any happening at all. However, we do believe that 2021 will be the year that the BMF returns to running great events. And we've got 2 for you to look forward to and to put in your diaries. In addition, of course, to the BMF All Industry Conference, which I will be officially launching later this morning. So firstly, on the 9th to the 11th of July, we plan to run our very successful Master Merchant event in the Lake District. And then on the 22nd and 23rd of September, we plan to run our, our annual conference and awards, which next year we're hoping to launch physically, and we'll be holding that at the stunning Beaumont Estate in Windsor. Now, if you want any more details about these events and how to get involved, then please contact June Upton, and she will provide information about both of these events. Of course, the success of the BMF and these events would not have been possible without you, our members. And I think this is a lovely slide that really echoes back to what life was like pre-COVID, and I think we all strive to get back to that position. You are absolutely the heart of everything we do, and we hope that we can rely on your continued support, not only through this year, but next year as we try and get back to some degree of normality. And again, I'd like to use this opportunity to particularly thank the 4 buying groups, so Allied Merchants, Fortis, H&B and MBG, all of which now we've brought into collective membership. So every single one of the members of those 4 buying groups is a member of the BMF. And of course, the 4 national groups who not only have stayed in membership, but have offered tremendous support during COVID and have been involved with many of the meetings that we've had with government. So again, thank you to Travis Perkins, Saint-Gobain, Grafton and Wolseley. So obviously we've got many members in many other buying groups as well, but these are really the guys that have really provided tremendous support to me individually and personally over the last few months. Of course, not everything in the last 12 months has been positive, and we all know about the impact of COVID. But we strive to achieve much greater engagement from those members who currently aren't engaging with us at all. And that's why I'd now like to say a few words about our Building Excellence strategy. The BMF's business strategy was first reviewed by the board in July 2018, and it was again reviewed in August of last year. And following this, a new strategic roadmap was produced, centered on the concept of building excellence in building material supply. We first revealed this new strategy to you guys at last year's Members' Day. And I'd just like to update you on what progress we've made with the new strategy, and particularly to update you on the single most important element of that strategy, which is what we call Project Excellence. Now, developed in conjunction with our marketing agency, CMDI, Project Excellence is how we will progress all of our members to excellence through engagement. Membership engagement is probably the single most important KPI for all membership bodies, but very few actually do it really well. So from the research that we carried out, we identified our membership was really grouped into 6 member types, each with their very distinctive needs from the BMF. So plumbing and heating merchants obviously have very distinct and differential needs from a heavy side type of merchants. A group called Unignited Advancers, which account for about 40% of our membership, which don't really use any of our BMF services. So they remain members of the BMF, but don't use our services. What we call aspiring progressors. So they might use our services, but they use it ad hoc and in a minimal way. And then we move on to the big users of the service, the focused improvers. They engage with a wide range of BMF services to proactively drive their business forward. Active influencers, who engage with a wide range of BMF services to proactively drive the industry forward. And then finally, of course, the 4 national brands, publicly listed companies, who require a different level of service from the BMF. The 3 of these groups, plumbing and heating, unignited advancers and aspiring progressors, are members who have little or no engagement with the BMF and actually account for 74% of our membership. We have to address these groups first and provide better reasons to engage and deepen the relevance of our offer through more service bundles. Now, all of these members are now entered into our new CRM system, and we can monitor full details of usage and engagement levels. And indeed, each member now has a unique dashboard which will be used by the regional managers to track and measure engagement levels. And as you can see from the dashboard, we pick up attendance at forums, which training courses that the member has actually been on. So it's a very accurate assessment of the level of engagement with the BMF. Now the CRM system is fully set up, we've been undertaking a period of testing and are now rolling out this new system, starting actually this month in September. And on the back of that, we've actually developed specific marketing material for each of these groups. So here, for example, is the program for plumbing and heating members, where we're offering a wide range of materials to help raise the awareness of how hard we're working to improve relevance, led, as you can see, by member advocates, people like David Kilby and Ray Stafford from Williams, to help low engagers recognise peers and how they're driving value and encouraging them to see what the BMF can do for you. And here is how we will adopt the programme for general merchants. So again, using member peers, so Rachel Fryers, Dennis O'Connor in Southern Ireland, and Geraint in Wales. So we will, and again, we are using advocates to promote how to get the best out of the BMF. Finally, this is really all about you and about how we build value for you as an individual member. And as you can see the quote from Neil here from Interline, the more you use it, the better the BMF gets. So we hope that you'll take a closer look at how we can help you not only build excellence, but in keeping with today's conference theme, how do you sustain excellence in your business, particularly during a very difficult trading climate that we are currently experiencing. Finally, I wanted to wrap up my session by talking about the Construction Leadership Council, which has dominated my life for the last 6 months, and in particular the BMF's input into the Road to Recovery. Now, the Road to Recovery is a published document that can be found on both the BMF and CLC websites, and is effectively a roadmap on how we collectively see the industry emerging from this crisis. The plan is actually broken down into 3 parts. Restart, which is what we've been doing for the last 3 to 4 months, looking at ways that we can get the industry back up and functioning. So things like the branch operating guidelines, site operating guidelines have been a result of that restart campaign. Reset, which is the stage where the industry is now, where we're looking at a number of ways of stimulating the construction sector. And probably the most high profile one that you're aware of currently is the Green Homes grant scheme, which the BMF is very actively involved in. We have a working group meeting every 2 weeks made up of merchants and manufacturers. And I know a number of you on the call are part of that group. So, and this is just only one of a number of measures that we're looking to stimulate the economy. And then finally, Reinvent, which is really all about how does the industry need to transform itself to meet the challenges, particularly around net zero carbon and digitalization. And of course, you'll be hearing more about that from Lord Deben and Megan in the sustainability sector, because I know Travis Perkins in particular have made real advancements in this area. Now, in order to deliver the roadmap to recovery, we've set up, the CLC has set up 4 industry working groups. These are housing, which has been led by the Home Builders Federation, a local social and commercial sector group, which is led by the Association of Consultants and Engineering Consultants, domestic RMI, which of course is a subject very close to our heart, which is being led by the Federation of Master Builders, and then finally infrastructure, which is led by the Infrastructure Client Group. And as you can see in bold, the BMF is currently represented on 3 of those 4 working groups. I personally sit on 2 of those groups, and we have Jewson, who represents us on the infrastructure group. Now, one of the major outputs of the CLC has been the new talent retention scheme, which is one of the working groups that we formed also on people and skills. So you can see here, as well as the 4 groups on the right-hand side, we have a number of what we call vertical work streams, one of which is looking at people and skills and is chaired by Mark Reynolds, who's the Group Chief Exec of MACE. And in there, one of the pillars of that is that talent retention scheme. Now, I'm particularly proud that the early adopters to this scheme, so this is a list of the first 12 companies to sign up to the talent retention scheme. 4 of those first 12 companies were BMF members: Aggregate Industries, Travis Perkins, Bradford's, and Polypipe. Quite simply, the talent retention scheme, which is modelled on similar schemes in the automotive industry and the aerospace industry, aims to retain jobs within the construction industry. It's not just an online jobs board. It enables businesses to find skills and expertise from within the industry. And of course, candidates can register their CVs, and it allows candidates to showcase their talent. So for example, we might have a candidate who's worked in the contractor side, who's now looking for an opportunity in the merchant side. And it's free for everyone until at least April 2021. There are currently 650 major companies now signed up to the scheme and posting jobs. But we really need you to get fully involved to make the scheme work effectively. So I've given you a link below, trs-system.co.uk/construction. If you're not involved in the talent retention scheme, either as a manufacturer or a merchant, can I strongly recommend that you go on to that scheme. You follow that web link and you see how you can get involved. And if you need any more advice on how to get involved in the scheme, then of course contact the BMF, either myself or Paige Godsill. So this is just a glimpse of what the BMF has been doing over the last 12 months and how we continue to work with you in partnership. Now, there is no doubt that together we can strive to achieve and sustain excellence throughout our industry. We should all be incredibly proud of the journey that the BMF has been on over the last 8 years, but also equally excited about what the future has in store for the BMF. Now, there's no question that as an industry, we will face significant challenges and changes in a world post-COVID and post-Brexit. But I'm absolutely confident that working together collectively as a trade association, but in the wider ecosystem of the construction industry, that together we can rise to meet those challenges. We've clearly set ourselves high expectations and ambitions, but we have a clearly defined strategy and roadmap, and working with you, our members, we will continue to help build your people, build your skills, build your business, build your voice, and collectively build excellence. So thank you for your individual support for myself, for Richard over the last few months in his tenancy as chairman, as our new chairman, and of course, to the rest of the board and the BMF team over the last 8 years that I've been in post. Before I hand you over to Nathan Garnett of UK Construction Week, who's been a tremendous supporter of the BMF for the last few years, I've put together a short video which shows how the BMF team have been helping you, our members, throughout the last 6 months of the COVID pandemic. So Ben, could we just run that video, please? Okay, thank you. Can we have Nathan's slide up there? And I'd like to introduce Nathan Garnett, who's going to tell you a little bit about UK Construction Week and the changes that are happening in Nathan's area. And again, just to finish by personally thanking Nathan and the UK Construction Week team for all of their support over the last few years. Always been a big supporter of the BMF. So Nathan, over to you, and thank you, everyone.
Hi, John. Thank you very much. And I'd like to just say well done on all that great work that's gone on through the pandemic and showing real leadership. I think the BMF have shone the way really through the pandemic with a construction sector that's really held up and delivered for people. So well done, John and the team. So yes, I wanted to update you on where we are. We would be currently obviously preparing for a construction week that would normally be in 3 weeks' time. So obviously we took the decision in the summer actually to postpone our event until 2021 for October, and that I think now we're so close to that date, we can see that that was probably the right decision. Events can restart on the 1st of October. Well, they're postponed. There was a restart date for the 1st of October, which has now been postponed. So I think it would have been very, very unlikely we could have gone ahead with Construction Week anyway now. So I thought I'd update you really on what we've been doing, because obviously the autumn now, we're at the start of the autumn. We had put all the plans in place for a Construction Week in terms of our speaker program, and we had over 300 companies signed up to exhibit with us at the start of the pandemic. So we don't want to just leave that work and not do anything with it. So there will be a virtual Construction Week in 3 weeks from now. We went live with registration with this yesterday, and we had over 650 registrations in one day. So I think it shows the appetite for engaging with content and networking online is definitely there, as this event as well demonstrates. So we've chosen 4 key themes for our conference program that were developed pre-pandemic. So a lot of the speakers have kindly agreed to carry on and do their presentations virtually. So I'm very pleased to say that we will be joined by Nadeem Zahawi and Anne Bentley, and also from Keith Waller at the Construction Innovation Hub, among 300 or 400 other speakers. So it really, I think, shows that the CLC, the Construction Leadership Council, the BMF and the Construction Innovation Hub have really sort of led by example through the pandemic, and actually will be telling you what the next stages are for a virtual UK Construction Week in October. So it's free to attend. So I'd urge anyone to sign up today if you want to pop in. You can go in and out through the 5 days of that week. So you can pick and choose what you want to do. And there will be speakers from a number of key companies in the sector. So the things we've chosen: net zero, obviously around hitting our 2050 targets. We've got a 5-day program there with the likes of Wilmot Dixon and Grimshaw. The BIM Alliance have put together a program as well for digital construction, all around the transformation that we need to see as part of what John mentioned around the CLC's reinvent phase. And we also have the Regeneration Hub, which will be talking around a lot of the things I think from the pandemic have changed how we see cities. What will that impact will that have on social housing? What do we do with our urban spaces? You know, what does the future look like post-pandemic? So I think this stream that we normally run at Construction Week has added importance, as does our main stage program, which was the one I mentioned at the start. So please do sign up. There will be opportunities for every company that was due to exhibit with us. They'll be able to still meet people at that during the 5 days of UK Construction Week online. So we've invested in a platform to do that. You know, connecting the whole supply chain at this time, as we've seen through the pandemic, is incredibly important. And we'd much rather be together at this time, but there's still ways we can meet online. So we're looking forward to being able to network and see people online there. So yes, I mean, as I said, we will all want to meet again, don't we? I think you know, this virtual conference is excellent, and the number of you here shows you that it works, but I'm sure that all of you would rather be together in person, and so would we. And I think if the pandemic's taught us anything, it's that the value of networking and face-to-face is actually is so important. So we have been working in the background since the postponement of UK Construction Week to look at what we can do in 2021. We didn't feel that we should wait until October 2021 to stage an event again. So I'm delighted to tell you that we'll be doing 2 UK Construction Weeks in 2021. And the opportunity, I think, now really is, you know, you see it every day. There's new government announcements around construction, and I think construction's been given the sort of the baton, if we're talking about the Olympics and relays and things like that, to really carry the economy through. And I think it's, you know, with the leadership that we've seen from the CLC, I think it's in the right place to do that. We want our events to be a catalyst for that. So we've been working with a number of the people that John has been talking to daily. So we're talking to BEIS, the Department of Local Government, and the Infrastructure Projects Authority to see how our events and our platform can really be a catalyst for the roadmap to recovery that John has outlined for you. So it will start in May, UK Construction Week, 4th to 6th of May at Excel, co-located with Grand Designs, where we've been running that show for 20 years. We already get 15,000 trade to that show, which, you know, the trades, the architects still come to that event. It will look and feel different, of course. The world looks and feels different now. But actually, from a B2B perspective, I think we can make it perhaps even more efficient for you in terms of, if you're a visitor, I think, you know, meeting face-to-face, we'll have meeting programs, there'll be timed entries, there'll be, you know, structure to that in a COVID-secure event. And from an exhibitor point of view, I think actually you might well see a higher return on investment, because you're only seeing people that have made real commitment to come. Maybe you're not seeing some of the sort of the people who just come to browse, as it were. So I think, you know, we're very optimistic about the future for events. The launch of this has had an amazing response. When we postponed Birmingham Construction Week, we spoke to everybody who was exhibiting, and everyone supported our move. We've not lost a single exhibitor, but we've also managed to get a number signed up for London. So, you know, obviously there are risks, but we will offer protection for people. That no one will lose any money if we can't stage the event. However, the opportunity is going to be massive. We believe it will run, and we believe it will be massive because of the fact that there hasn't been an event for over a year. So we're very excited about that. Obviously working with the BMF to do that. So next year brings us 2 events, October and May, London and Birmingham. So Birmingham could be our biggest event yet, because every company that was due to exhibit this year will be at the one in 2021. And we've also got a whole other year of time to book new people in as well. So again, that's something to look forward to. How to get people there? As we always do, we have extensive partnerships, but I think for 2021, we've got our biggest and most exciting partnerships to date. We'll be working with the Times editorially, and as a media partner, they will support the event, putting construction, you know, in the national press even more. We're working with TalkSport to deliver a new awards scheme for the trades. I'd like to include merchants in that, so I'd welcome ideas. We're looking at categories at the moment, but that again, let's get merchants and construction on the radio and in the news pages. We've also got 4 successful summits that we're all going to co-locate at the May event around diversity, well-being, quality. All again even more important now than they were pre-pandemic. And obviously delighted to have great industry support from John at the BMF, but also Construction Products Association and the Infrastructure Projects Authority, to name a few. So you know, we're very confident we're going to get the big projects there to talk about how you can get involved and the supply chain going forwards and in that recovery, roadmap to recovery. Companies already exhibiting, so obviously BMF member have already signed up. We've also got a pavilion for the BMF at both events, as we always do, and there are BMF benefits to doing that. So firstly, you get a discount. Secondly, you also get the support of the BMF and UK Construction Week marketing-wise to make sure that you have an effective event. And we're very proud of the fact that the BMF members that have exhibited with us have pretty much all stayed in for the whole 6 years we've been running this show. So, I think we can say, working together, we can deliver for you. And then there's all the other aspects that we could help you with in terms of our digital platform as well. So the virtual event that I mentioned, but we've also got a daily newsletter that goes out to 200,000 and so on. So hopefully, we want to keep the roadmap to recovery firmly in our sights. We want to communicate to the industry what the CLC are doing, what the great things the BMF are doing. As I think we've seen real leadership through these last few months, I think it's actually an opportunity for us to reshape the sector. So hopefully you can join us, really. I think the CLC's report, to me, the thing that I took out of it that we can help with is the creating demand. Getting people to events, getting people online, talking about construction in the national press can create the demand we need, making sure that the Green Homes Grant is used effectively through our consumer shows. We run Idle Home Show Grand Designs as well, and we have Good Homes magazine. I think we see that we've got a really important role to make sure that the Green Homes Grant opportunity is taken, because we've seen that that's sometimes in the past has not filtered through to construction products and merchants. So that's it from me. So thank you very much for giving me the time to talk to you. As I said, just in summary, I can't wait to get together again. And I saw, John, when you said that slide of all those people at your events, we feel the same way. We're looking forward to just getting back together. And when we can, I think we can show how effective face-to-face really is. So thank you for giving me the time. And yeah, I think I'm handing back to Kevin now.
Yes, you certainly are, Nathan, and thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thanks again also for your sponsorship of the keynote speakers. And I'm getting messages through on the chat saying that everybody is really looking forward to getting back together again. I'm sure that's a tune that we'd all like to sing towards next year, and some great proactive activity going on there to build us towards that. And let's hope we can very, very soon get ourselves back to meeting up again. Now it's time for me to introduce Peter Hallett, Trading Director of Marshalls, and of course our headline sponsor for this morning's event. Peter is going to be taking us through his experience of running a manufacturing business through COVID. So welcome to you, Peter, and a big thank you for taking the time to be involved with the webinar. Peter Hallett, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name's Peter Hallett. I'm Trading Director at Marshalls. I've been with Marshalls for 15 years, and I'm extremely proud to work for such a great company and two great brands in Marshalls and Stowmarket. Marshalls are very, very pleased to be sponsoring the BMF. We have been very heavily involved with them over the last 2 or 3 years, and John's been a great advocate for the industry and supported the CLC through these difficult times. Just a note, there are no slides from me today. I think you're getting enough of those, so if you want to go on to speaker view, feel free to do so. So in terms of operating a manufacturing company through COVID, which has been a crazy period, two key issues really for us. Obviously, keeping all our people, our suppliers and our customers safe. And then the really trick, which is fairly easy actually, we've had no incidents in Marshalls. And then understanding demand and fulfilling customer requirements, which has been a little bit more difficult. It's clear that COVID's going to be around for the midterm, and I don't know whether any of you have read a piece of work by Imperial College, and if you haven't, you should have a look at it. It's quite a detailed report. But their predictions are pretty much in line with what's happening. They are predicting a spike in September, which we're seeing, and another spike in November. So until such time as a vaccine is created, and I'm not sure I'd take a vaccine anyway that was rushed through a system, unless there's a change in strategy, I think we've got this hanging around for some time in terms of local, regional, national lockdowns. In terms of Marshalls, we operated safely from day one, so we never actually closed the doors and continued to take orders from day one. And I think we're very proud of that. We in effect sent everybody home on day one. All our people had their systems, access and telephony from day one, and no problem at all. And all our offices were closed and remain so, and there is no particular plan to go back anytime soon. Manufacturing operations throughout the UK were closed for a short period, but are now fully operationally, and there's obviously an emphasis on social distancing and safe working. All our field sales teams have COVID kits and are engaging with either virtual or physical meetings with customers by appointment. And we've had strong SOPs in communications for all our people and all our employees throughout the whole period. In terms of the supply chain, specifically within the merchant chain, there was a mixed response to COVID, with outright closures to limited capacity to working as normally. And we were inundated as a manufacturer with requests from installers to find merchants who could support them with materials. And we did that via banners on our website, already showing on day one the importance of a digital strategy. And we found merchants for customers to buy from. And we were able to support merchants by delivering either direct to site or direct to the job site, or by taking support from our digital platform, and obviously supporting merchants' yards. And all this was done. We're very lucky to have our own fleet, which has crane offload vehicles, so there was no need for any interaction with the branch physically, and we were able to drop product at the branches with no problems at all. In terms of a restructuring, we restructured early. We did get some comments about that, not least of which from some of the members on the call today. And our original prediction for 2021 was minus 15%. I don't know whether that's still the case, but that was our original prediction. April and May, as you all know, were very, very weak, but orders have been extremely strong since, and demand on domestic landscape has been very, very strong indeed. Just a point on the furlough process. We didn't take any furlough money for anybody who was made redundant, and we are intending to pay back all furlough loans to the government so that we are free to act as a PLC from now on and pay dividends to our shareholders and act as normal. Our balance sheet is extremely strong, and we have great headroom and bank facilities moving forwards. So in terms of moving forwards, all our operations are now full steam ahead, and we're in the process of putting new capacity in, believe it or not. So new capacity is going into Ramsbottom, Eaglescliffe, Carluke and Maltby, all in terms of plant and shifts. Obviously, we will be complying absolutely to government guidelines in terms of the COVID, at least for the future, and no offices will be open until the new year. All shutdowns or preventative maintenances have been postponed or cancelled wherever possible. And in terms of our forecasts, these have increased pretty much, week on week, month on month, and they're all going one way, and that's up. So we're in the middle of a huge spike in terms of demand, but there is concern for the medium term. I mean, forecasts are incredibly difficult to predict. Who would have thought, before lockdown, that you couldn't get jigsaws, you couldn't get gym weights, you couldn't get bikes, puppies are on a lead time, have gone up in prices, you couldn't get groceries, you couldn't get timber, and you couldn't get plaster, etc., etc., etc. And so this has created a new sense of demand with unprecedented past experience. So we're now looking at a future where we don't really know what's coming towards us. The CPA haven't really given strong guidance. We look at ABI and Glenigan to predict the future, and I'll just go through those in a minute. In terms of domestic, I mean, everybody I know, and I'm sure everybody you know, maybe even yourselves, are doing work in or around your house, either inside or outside. And this private space has been invigorated by this virus. And so in the midterm, that looks positive. In terms of commercial, it's uncertain, I'd say. I mean, who's going to invest in the new head office at the moment and associated? And ABI is predicting a weakening in that sector. In terms of government-led infrastructure, that will be strong. I think we all know that, HS2 being a prime example. And housing looks positive in the short term, with some of the builders reporting some very, very positive sales. But it's difficult to tell what will happen post the stamp duty holiday and the Help to Buy. And clearly that will be a big, big issue in terms of the number of jobless as we move forward. So that is a major concern for us. And then, of course, there's Brexit. And Brexit is still an issue for those who import from Europe. Marshalls are lucky in that we only import 2% of our materials for either the makeup of product or for resale from Europe. So we are a UK manufacturer based in Scotland, Wales, and England and our local markets, obviously. So we're in a lucky position, but I'll come on to that in a minute. And so overall, I think it's incredibly difficult to predict the future and what next year is going to look like for all of us beyond this spike. And I think that, and we think in Marshalls, that some shrinkage in the medium term is inevitable, especially as furlough ends as we go through the next few months. In terms of learnings, the biggest learning that we have is that a resilient supply chain is incredibly important. And I mean that for the end users, the people who are putting the products in the ground or building from it. A resilient supply chain is massively important. So we all need to be ready for Brexit and or for further local, regional or national lockdowns. I think the other learnings that I would have are things can be done incredibly quickly and well if you put your mind to it. And the technology is absolutely paramount. Having the ability to work from home for your white collar workers is very important, and to be able to do it efficiently and seamlessly as if the customer can't see any difference. And obviously technology and a digital platform is incredibly important for your customers as well. And I hear what you say, but I also think you can have a lot of fun on the technology. I've certainly had some very funny experiences. And I think you can build a culture, and the culture and the communication can be extremely quick if you use the technology well. The other learning I would have is that good people shine through very quickly. This is an incredibly fast-paced situation that we all find ourselves in. Things are changing daily. And some of you good people love it because they can make decisions, and some of them don't because they're scared of it. And that's been very, very clear from the start. The drive time is again something really interesting. I drive only 35-40 minutes to work every day if I'm in the office. That's actually an hour and a quarter every day of my life gone. And sometimes you use it for phone calls. And if you're doing some corporate tourism or some general business travel, it takes time. And getting that time back is actually good. And most of our people, and the government has done the same research to say that people like working at home where they can. And I'm sure that in the future, there will be a hybrid of working from home and working from an office. There will obviously, in terms of other learnings, there will obviously be changes to how we sell in the future. And I hope, like you do, that there will be more face-to-face. But I think that will change. And I think that, again, it will be a hybrid. The ESG agenda is ever more important. Looking after your people, whether it's in your own company, your own country, or in further afield, is massively important. And the other key learning for Marshalls, obviously, as a landscape business, is there's been a massive increase in the appreciation of your own space, whether it's inside your house, outside your house, or your local community. So what will be the new normal? I've no clue, but I think we're in for some tough times past the spike. And I only hope that we keep the country going, and that's something that we will try and do, absolutely. So finally, a massive thank you to the BMF #1, but all the supportive merchants who throughout this COVID experience have been absolutely fantastic. We have really appreciated it and tried to support you throughout. So thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for listening to me and looking at my lovely shirt.
Many thanks, Peter. Many thanks indeed, and in particular for the shirt. I think it's outstanding. Those of you who know me well, I appreciate a good shirt. So that's a very good session there from Peter, and obviously I'm sure our audience will relate to and benefit from hearing from you today. Just before I introduce the next session, Ben, can I check that Lord Deben is actually with us?
We don't think so yet.
Okay, so I think
different name.
I think what I'll do then, in just for 2 minutes, is I'm just going to pose a couple of questions to John. Really, I think, John, if I can bring you in, I think one of the key things you mentioned was just how inspired you were by the members and what they've done throughout the pandemic crisis. So I just wonder if you'd like to elaborate on that just a touch. Pick out 1 or 2 examples that have most impressed you, and possibly actually give us a bit of an insight into the Construction Leadership Council, because I know you've been heavily involved with government on that, and I know you skimmed through that and obviously did a good job of outlining it, but could you pinpoint 1 or 2 of the things that have really impressed you about how everybody's pulled together?
Yeah, I mean, on your first question, there was clearly quite a lot of confusion at the start of COVID. I remember the Boris announcement on the Monday night, and I think within 2 minutes of the Boris announcement, my phone went, Kevin, and then literally continued all the way through till I think 2 o'clock in the morning was the last call that I took, and people were they just needed guidance and were very confused as to whether they should stay open or they should close. Obviously, some merchants had very strong moral purposes and moral reasons for closing. Others, and I can think of somebody like Bradford's, for example, where I know David was wrestling with that whole decision as to whether to open and to close. So, yeah, I think, you know, the first few days for me was really all about trying to get clear government guidelines and trying to get a clear message to go back out to both manufacturers and merchants as to whether they should stay open or should stay closed. So tremendous pressure, if you like, on me and on the rest of the team that were operational again throughout the night. I think we have had some fantastic examples. There are far too many to mention, but I can just think of Moran's and Bart Murphy, what Bart did from a personal point of view, but how Moran's responded to the request for PPE. You know, we put an appeal out early on, and we got a tremendous response to that appeal for PPE and for support for the frontline workers. And you know, it just proves the sort of social responsibility element of many of our members. So, yeah, it was a difficult time because, as I said, a number of merchants really they felt it was the right thing to do to close because that was right, obviously, for the staff, but also right from a moral point of view. And the BMF all along has said, you know, we won't take any moral judgments. All we will try and do is act and communicate that information flow back from government to the members and let the members themselves decide as to whether they should stay open or not.
I know you mentioned, John, to me personally, the government have been very impressed by the industry and see very much the construction industry as a leader. I don't know if you could expand on that in terms of how well that leadership has been recognised throughout the pandemic.
Yeah, I think we're all aware in this sector that we don't have a great image. We don't have a great image externally, and we probably didn't have a good image with government. I think they see us as a very disparate collection of trade associations and sectors. And I think for me, the key thing that's come out of the last 5 months, 5.5 months being involved with the Construction Leadership Council is actually bringing together in a collaborative partnership, you know, a voice in merchants, a voice on house builders, a voice on contractors, a voice for manufacturers, a voice for consultants and engineers. It literally, the CLC is a collective body of every single part of this sort of ecosystem that we call construction. So collaborative partnerships are probably the thing that I think I've most been impressed with. And then just to answer your question on government, I mean, the government take a lot of stick, and this morning is a good example on testing. And whatever your politics are, the fact is, I can only comment from personal experience, and the civil servants, in particular BEIS, and the people that we've been dealing with in that particular department, which is our core department, have been tremendous during this period of time. You know, that if you sent an email to BEIS at 10 o'clock at night, you would probably get a response by 11 o'clock. So yeah, it's easy to criticize government for some of the things they're not doing, but I think we should also give them credit where it's due, because the job retention scheme, the talent, you know, the new TRS scheme that I talked about earlier, the support for trade credit insurance, the £2 billion that's going into Green Homes Grant. These guys are trying, they're trying, and we're all managing through a crisis we've never managed before. So it's very easy to criticize, but I think sometimes we need to compliment them on some of the things they're doing, not just criticize them.
Well, thank you very much for that, John. And I do believe that Lord Deben has joined us. So now it's very much time for me to introduce the Building a Sustainable Britain session, a vital subject for the industry and indeed the nation as a whole. Thank you again for our session sponsors, Kerridge Commercial Systems. Your support is very much appreciated, and I'll be asking James Mitchell, Managing Director, to join us on the short panel session following the speaker presentations. This is very much on point with our theme today, sustaining excellence. As you'll no doubt be aware from your agenda, we have two excellent speakers who are extremely well qualified to take us through this session. So to start us off, it's a great privilege to introduce our first speaker, Lord Deben, House of Lords, Chairman, UK Committee on Climate Change. Big welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm very pleased we have finally got there through rather a long and complicated way. But I did catch the last comment that John Newcombe had, and I wanted just to say how right he is. However cross we get with people, when something goes right, saying thank you is an extremely important way of making sure they do something right again. I often think that one of our problems is that ministers, and having been a minister for so long, ministers always get brickbats, but they rarely get thanks for when things seem to have gone wrong, right. And you get much more out of people, as we all know, if you say thank you. They're more willing to do what you want them to do next time. So, John, I really think that was a very good comment indeed.
Thank you, Roddy.
I wanted to start really by putting the background to all that we're talking about. The truth is that when I first started to argue about climate change, it was pretty hard. It's a very long time ago. I remember being the Deputy Minister in Agriculture and needing to decide upon the level of seawalls, and they all told me, well, there was no need to change the rules. And then one of the civil servants said, but of course, if you believed in global warming, we ought to raise the standards. And I said, well, I do believe in global warming. And they said, well, very brave, Minister. They said, very brave indeed, but Treasury will never let you spend the money. Well, I was writing Mrs. Thatcher's speeches at the time, so I was able to say to her, I said, Prime Minister, this is the situation, but I'm told the Treasury will never give us the money for this. And she said, John, she said, there are two of us in this government who believe in global warming, you and me. We are therefore a majority. Go ahead. So that's why we started on that work. But in those days, of course, you had to argue all the time as to whether climate change was happening. And it's only now that we don't have to do that. People recognize it, not only because the science is so clear, but the weather has shown us just how different it is. The spring comes 21 days earlier. We know perfectly well that the rain comes down in great globs instead of soft showers. All that we now know. So you have to be Mr. Trump, frankly, not to believe in climate change. And therefore the argument is, what do we do about it? And that's a much tougher thing. And of course, your industry is very much at the center and heart of what we have to do. because the confluence of our need to reboot our economy after COVID-19 and the need to change the way in which we do things because of climate change is a very tough node, which actually is there in the construction industry that you serve. And so I was very pleased to be asked to say a few words to start with, because I think you need very much the support of all of us to try to make these changes. It isn't just about the direct issue of climate change, it's the much wider issue of sustainability. And so I want to quote a long-standing chairman of Coca-Cola. In my business, I have helped Coca-Cola over many years move into their present sustainable position. And he said to me very simply, he said, as far as sustainability is concerned, for me, it starts with being here in 125 years, just like we've been here for 125 years. Sustainability is about a successful business continuing. And what is happening today is that we recognize that successful businesses will not continue unless they take into account all these major changes that we have, which we sum up in sustainability. And of course, climate change is one of those. We see that in the need to look at our supply chains, which have been so affected during the COVID period. We recognize the weakness of so many of those chains. We've realized quite what affects them right across the world. And we've had to begin to think about how do we deal with that? If the weather if we are in, let's say, the grocery industry, we discover that we can't buy the vegetables and the salads that we used to buy from many parts of Spain because it's got too hot to produce them and there's not enough water. We find that all sorts of parts that we expected always to get aren't able to be produced because of the civil unrest which results from climate change. So we have to concentrate on making sure that our supply chains are much more secure than in the past. And we also have to recognize that those supply chains, of course, have several levels. So it's not just looking after the immediate supply chain, it's much further down that we have to go, because very often you think you've got it right. I was talking to a person who was in the fashion industry, and they were very proud of themselves because no more than 8% of their clothes came from any one country. What they hadn't realized was that the cloth which went to those countries, 30% of it came from China. So that when things went wrong in China, it was several of those countries were unable to produce the goods that they wanted, even though they had carefully built their primary supply chain and hadn't gone behind it to see where the cloth came from and where the thread came from, and that was a very much more concentrated and therefore vulnerable place. So there are some general issues of sustainability which every business is going to have to come to terms with. And that generality is, of course, summed up in the government's commitment to reducing our emissions to net zero by 2050. Now, that is a statutory requirement. The law says that that's what we have to do. And then to get there, we have a series of budgets. We have got the 4th and 5th carbon budget already. And in October of this year, the Climate Change Committee will produce the 6th carbon budget. And these, again, are statutory. They are voted on by Parliament, and once they're voted on by Parliament, they are the law. We have to meet them, and they can't be changed unless the Climate Change Committee agrees to change them. And I have to say, they're not likely to do that, not while I'm chairman in any case. So there are those two budgets which have got to be met, and the government at the moment isn't meeting. So we shall expect some very big changes which will affect this industry very considerably, and we will see them over the next year as the government links building back better with the need to combat climate change. But then there's the sixth carbon budget, which will be an even further step. Budgets are well ahead, so we can all prepare for it, but preparing for it is, of course, absolutely necessary. And the construction industry lies in the center of that. If you look at the Climate Change Committee's report, the latest one, the one that showed what we had done over the last year and drew attention to those things that we still had to do, and was based upon our net zero report. If you look at that, our recommendations to the government are very clear, and that is that building back better is about building. So Mr. Johnson's build, 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 as long as it's done in the right way, is absolutely it. And the key bit to that is the huge need to retrofit our homes and our commercial buildings so that they are much more energy efficient. The sad thing is, and I have to blame the house builders for this, the sad thing is that since the government, in my view, reneged on its zero carbon target, we've built 1 million houses which have got to be retrofitted. I've been rude enough to talk about crap houses, but I do think that it is an unacceptable thing to build a house in which you hand the person who buys it a long-term energy price which you didn't need to give them. Build a house properly, build a house according to standards which are close to passive house, do what they're doing in many other countries, and then people have very, very low energy costs, and of course that enables you to have very, very much lower emissions. Well, we've got to do that. We're going to do that, and builders merchants will be part of the chain for the changes that will take place. That's on new housing. But on the houses we've already got, and that's the vast majority of the problem, we're going to have to do an awful lot of changes, and many of those changes demand products which you are selling and demand changes in the way in which the industry handles those things. And I do honour the very considerable work which some of your larger companies have been doing, and indeed how that even some of the single units have really been trying to find the best way. And so I thought my first request is, builders merchants have a very real role to play in helping people to make the right decisions in the products which they have. You really do have a key role in the communication strategy. It's very difficult for individual builders, for homeowners, for people who are trying to do things right, to do this with a plethora of information that comes around. And you have a key role here, and it seems to me to be a key commercial role as well, because if you get it right, you become the fount of knowledge, and you're able to sell more of your products. I'm a great believer that sustainability is about profitability, because if you aren't profitable, you won't be here in a year's time. So I'm totally committed to the fact that these things come closely together. And the second thing that seems to me that the industry can do is really itself to inform itself, because we can't pass on to our customers unless we ourselves know what are the best choices, what are the problems with some equipment and materials, what should we be looking to stop. There's a great deal to be said for what is called choice editing. The supermarkets have been doing it on electrical goods for some time. You put in the front the things which you know are the most energy efficient. Can't refuse to sell people things that they wouldn't necessarily be the best for energy, but you can at least make sure that those products are there ready for them to be used. And that seems to me to be an important part, but you can't do that unless you know, unless you yourselves have been informed. And so there is a real role for the industry as a whole to become much more savvy about what needs to be done in building in order to protect ourselves against climate change, and indeed to do all the things that we need to do as well. Because climate change is, after all, only the symptom of what we've done to the world. That's the amazing insight of the Pope in his great encyclical Laudato Si, that it's the biodiversity, it's the way we've allowed soils to be become less fertile, it's the way we've treated people and animals that has led us to the situation in which we're beginning to change the climate. But that is the symptom of all those things. So it's not just a question of making sure that we reduce our emissions, it's also a question of making sure that we become much more resilient. And that means recycling, reusing. It means using less and less resource, because with an ever-growing population, those resources are running low. And your industry is at the key, at the center of being able to help with that. And I just take a couple of simple examples. I hope that people in the builders, merchants would naturally say to people when they ask about taps, well, you really ought to have a mixer tap. And there are very good ones. You don't have two taps because that really does use a lot more water. And that when they talk about showers, they really take seriously the fact that we are going to be very short of water. The east of England is already characterized as a semi-arid area, where I'm sitting here under my fig tree in my garden. I'm in an area where we have just, we're in the middle at this moment of reconnecting the Victorian cisterns which take the water from the roof so that I will have water for my garden, because I don't believe that in the next 3, 4, 5 years we're going to have enough water in the east of England for gardens to be watered in the summer right throughout the time. I think we're going to be restricted simply because we don't have the water. And so right from now, we should be looking for the most economical systems and discouraging the least economical systems. And again, one of the things I really dislike about government is that it isn't willing very often to bring everybody into the whole issue. Government can't do this on its own. It's got to work with local government, and it's got to work with business. And working with business is the crucial thing here, because you are the contact with the individual. You're in contact with the individual builder. You're the contact with the individual do-it-yourself person. You are there to be able to make the very small changes in habits which end up in very big results. So let me just think for one moment about COVID. All that COVID has done is to speed up the things which were already happening. That's true of pandemics always. There's a historic example. You can just go back to the Black Death, you can look at the Great Plague, you can look at any of those pandemics. And what happens is that people in it think that the world is totally changing. What is actually happening is that changes that were happening before are in fact made much faster and hit you much harder, because the pace of change is very demanding. So people are going to work more from home. They are going, therefore, to ask of your industry the changes which make working from home easier. Of course, they're not going to do it every day. They're probably going to commute still a couple of days a week, but being at home, 2 of them working, we all know that the building changes that are necessary for them to do that, they're going to come back to you. And helping people do that, to change their lifestyle, which of course in its effect is to reduce the amount of energy that we use, travel that we have. Actually, it makes life, family life, and I think community life very much better. All those things are things that you as an industry, again, are going to be at the heart, and innovation is going to be essential. And so what we have to do is to ensure that at all points, we are the means whereby the public can do the best. Life is about doing good rather than bad, making it easier to do good rather than bad. The problem with doing good in this area is that it can be quite complicated and you need expert help. And you are the experts in many areas whose help people will need. And that also means that wherever there are alternatives, things that don't damage the planet as much as some. Just happen to notice then at the moment, coming up on the chat, a comment about the whole issue of concrete and the huge cost that concrete has to the ecology and to the planet. Well, we haven't got an answer yet. We can't absolutely replace concrete, but there are many areas where we use concrete where we can use something better, where we can use something that's less damaging. And if we make all those choices, we're on the way to make the difference. There's all sorts of research being done about concrete, but on the way, we can do so much. For example, we're going to have to use a lot more wood in the construction industry. We're going to plant a lot more trees, but the only way that you lock up the carbon which the trees sequestrate is if you use it in a way which ties it down. And of course, construction is going to be one of the most important places for that to take place. And you're going to be the missionaries, the ones that explain how wood can be used, the ones that insist that the wood that is used comes from sustainable sources. And above all, that the wood that is used is not a fire hazard. Well-treated wood is as safe, indeed safer, than many of the alternatives. So it's all part of this great change we're all going to make together. This is a future which we know we have to have. It's very fortunate. Very rarely do we know much about the future. But climate change tells us the route down which we have to go. The fact that every nation in the world has signed up to it, well, of course, they're not all going to meet it, and some of them are making a fuss about it, like President Trump. But in the end, that's the direction of travel. And the more that we're able to phase our businesses in order to help people move down that route, the more our businesses will be successful and profitable. So I end simply with a bit of a homily. I'm a businessman. I've been a businessman all my life, except the time that I was in government. And the thing, therefore, that I want to say to fellow businessmen is, this is not an add-on extra. This is not something which you do because you think it's a good thing to do. It's not something that you do out of the goodness of your heart. This is something that you do in order to be profitable. This is something that you do in order to safeguard your business in the future. This is something that you do because if you don't do it, then others will, and you will find yourself losing out. This is part of profitability, and we should think about it like that. And if we have any doubt about it, I have a very simple, easy way of proving it. Look where the money is. If you look at the investors, if you look at all those bankers, those investment houses, from BlackRock and the big ones right down to the small people who are buying shares and buying companies. If you look at them and see the change in their judgments, you see just which way the world is going. 5 years ago, ESG, environment, social, governance, sustainability, whatever you call it, was a very marginal activity. One or two investment trusts talk about they had a sustainable fund. Today, every single fund would claim sustainability, some more truthfully than others. Today, the investors are asking for full ESG compliance. My company that we help people do these sustainability things, to do it with the biggest companies in the world. 5 years ago, we used to bang on doors, we had to argue, we used to have to work very hard to get people on board. Now they telephone us and ask for our help. The reason is they know that there's no sustainable. And so if you follow the money, and that is the vulgar way in which I believe one can make the measurement, you know where the future is going. And if you want to be a successful builder's merchant, that's the route down which you should go. It also happens to be the route in which you make the biggest contribution to society. And it's the route which your children and grandchildren will thank you for taking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lord Deben. We really appreciate you joining us today. Very insightful, and indeed for joining us on the short panel session after our next speaker. So now, moving swiftly on, our second speaker for this session is very much part of our industry, and it is my pleasure to welcome Megan Adlon, Head of Sustainability for Travis Perkins PLC. Over to you, Megan.
Thanks, Kevin. And thanks for the opportunity to come and speak with you all today. And thank you, Lord Deben, for setting the scene so well there. I think, Ben, am I going to get the slides to move forward myself? Well, I'm the Head of Sustainability for TP Group. I've been with TP for just over a year, and prior to that was with Ferguson PLC, looking after their sustainability programme for 6 years. Before that, 7 or 8 years in the commercial side with Wolseley. So coming up to 20 years in the builders merchant sector now. I've got 5 points to talk through with you today. I'm not sure the slides, I've got access to yeah, if you could, I'll tell you when then, Ben, if that's all right.
Yeah, you should.
I've got 5 points to talk through with you today. So first of all, resilience. What have we learned from COVID and how has it impacted the sustainability agenda? Secondly, building back better, because more of the same won't work. What are the positive changes from what's been a very difficult time that we can hold on to? Why we need to lead, not only be led in sustainable construction, and how we can each play our part. So hopefully I'll give you some insight to our thinking and some questions to take away to consider for your own businesses. I certainly don't have all the answers, but hopefully we can identify some opportunities to collaborate. So what have we learned from COVID? It's been a huge test of resilience for all of us, and it's underlined the importance of our industry. We've been providing essential services to keep people warm, dry and safe, and provide products for the builds of the Nightingale hospitals. We've all mobilised very quickly to ensure safety first and provide essential services to our customers. And I think there's 5 points to mention here, but there's many more, of course. Firstly, agility is crucial. We've all had to evolve very fast to survive. And making changes in our businesses at pace, it's shown us that when we need to change, we can. And that's really important when you think of climate change and how much we need to change over the next 10 years. Secondly, preventative measures reduce costs. I don't think any of us could have really been ready for what just happened and continues to happen. But it certainly does show that those major outliers on your risk registers, maybe very low likelihood but high impact, or maybe they're very far out on the risk register, they materialize. And that's when we learn that it's really important to have a resilient business. Which people did we wish we could have in the office but couldn't come into work, and which supply chains didn't we have a backup for? I think it's made us all think about our crisis management plans and how we can be ready for future risks. Supply chain resilience underpins business resilience. Well, we've heard that from a couple already this morning. We're only as strong as the weakest link in our chain, and we've all got long supply chains and global supply chains, and this kind of pandemic can impact that significantly. I think as an industry, because we're built on relationships, we're probably luckier than some, because we've worked very well with each other to get through these last few months. Digital connectivity can replace some physical connectivity. I know we're all desperate to get back together again, but gosh, what an intense way of learning that. We had to improve our digital services at pace to be able to help customers throughout COVID. Whether that's moving some of our paper-based operations onto digital, providing the customer online and phone options, digitalizing some other parts of our operations. It's absolutely crucial, and we've really had to do that extremely fast. Community has strengthened. The country definitely unites against common threats. It's been lovely to see the NHS clapping and seeing people helping each other in their communities. So I guess when I think of the impact overall for COVID on sustainability, if you think of a few of those examples, I'd suggest it's only served to strengthen the sustainability agenda. COVID was a major risk which has materialised, and sustainability is about managing risks, and there are other risks on the horizon, very close in fact. So from my perspective, the inquiries from investors have rocketed. Customer expectations continue to increase. They're very interested in us doing this well and helping them to do it well. And our business focus on this is strong. I think for our industry, it's already been mentioned that it's certainly made people consider far more closely, not yet, Ben, sorry, I'll let you know, far more closely how comfortable and efficient their homes are. We're in them a lot more now, so if we can promote products that reduce energy consumption, bills, improve daylight quality, air quality in the home for well-being, etc., it's definitely going to be more on people's minds. I think the two main takeaways are common threats bring people together, and public activism was already on the increase for climate change. As public awareness increases around the risks on climate change, we can only expect the public to unite more in their expectations of businesses to address this. And the other is that when we need to change, we can. So don't lose that survival mindset. We're going to need it going forward. Thanks, Ben. So it's definitely given us an opportunity to reevaluate what's important. As we build back the economy, we need to build back better. So there's two objectives on this slide, and one is to build and get the economy moving again, and the other is to do so in a green way, because we need to decarbonise the UK's housing stock. So the chart on the right shows the dip in carbon globally during lockdown, which was around 8%. That dip is needed every year for the next 10 years to keep us on track to meet global carbon targets. The UK housing stock accounts for 1/3 of the UK's emissions. So if we're going to build and meet those climate ambitions, we're definitely going to have to think about how we do it differently. So what should we do? Thanks. So first of all, hold on to the positive changes. It's definitely been a very, very hard 6 months, and I think the last thing I want to do is gloss over that. This isn't blind optimism that's ignoring the challenges that COVID's brought, but there's definitely some positives we can take away. I think continue with less travel, business travel, home working, flexible working, video conferencing. It reduces cost and carbon. It can improve work-life balance. But I feel very sorry for those juggling Zoom and small children in the last few months. But there's definitely some positives that we can take from that. Keep accelerating digitalisation. So digitalisation and decarbonisation go hand in hand. It's key to our future success and sustainability, so keep up the momentum. Keep fostering community spirit. It's brought us together. It's always been important for our industry, and it's good for our business. Keep the must change, will change attitude. There's more challenges ahead, and keep focus on the whole value chain. Collaboration with your customers, suppliers, the government, end consumers, all stakeholder groups. Just going to make sure that you keep focused on the bigger picture, and it'll give us all a greater chance of sustainable growth. So I think, in summary, whilst it's been an incredibly hard time, reverting to the norm isn't going to get us to where we need to get to. So I'd encourage us all to keep the positives and think about how we can move forward from here. So next slide, please, Ben. Thanks. So we shouldn't only wait to be led by government. We have an opportunity to lead ourselves. There's a few examples on the slide of the way in which government is leading the construction industry and the builders merchant industry towards sustainable construction, or certainly some of them are just around more construction. But on the right hand side, I would suggest is the more important part on this slide. How can we be the arbiters of change? So what is it that we can do to design more sustainable products, design out waste, digitalise, support modern methods of construction, think in systems and not silos, and collaborate with each other? Communication, Lord Debon's really emphasised this. I couldn't emphasise it more myself. The more that we can educate installers and end consumers, the home buyers, homeowners, to understand the benefits of some of these products and changes, the more that we will accelerate the changes that need to happen in the built environment. And we're in an optimum position, being in the middle of lots of suppliers and lots of customers, to be able to facilitate that communication. Customers want to understand the better products that we've got. I think it's encouraging to be asked this now. I feel like I'm being asked more than trying to tell people more, which is great. We've had customers tell us that they really want to know about the sustainability credentials of products and of the suppliers who are providing those products to them, because they can use it in their planning applications to secure a successful application. It costs them thousands, and if it helps to understand and build better and promote that and win it, they would rather do that. Also in winning big bids for land, because landowners are wanting to leave a legacy and sell their land onto somebody who's going to build on it sustainably. But also in selling to homeowners. As a homeowner, it's becoming far more desirable now to understand that the home you've got is efficient or renewable, with recycled glass worktops and sustainable timber, and lower bills, etc. More daylight for well-being. These are things which can help to sell homes, perhaps even at a premium, or maybe at least faster. And I think it's very important that we walk the talk, because it demonstrates that we believe in what we are talking about. So what is it we can do with our own estates? Landlords are interested to collaborate, because, as Lord Debon said, investment funds who are invested in them are also very keen that those landlords upgrade their buildings. And how can we engage our own employees and prove the benefits? So there's so many opportunities for us to work together, to lead and not just be led on sustainable growth. So how can each of us play our part? There's a couple of thoughts on this slide. First of all, you can see the full supply chain diagram on the left. This is just to encourage that we keep the whole value chain in mind as we develop our plans. So, for example, we hear from customers that they wish certain products were half the size, because it would reduce the amount of offcuts and waste that they have, or that they wish that designers had thought through more carefully about their designs because of the waste impacts and how small changes could significantly reduce waste. Also, that some On paper, eco products, once you put them into a SAP system, don't improve the overall performance of the house because the system as a whole hadn't been considered in producing that product. So I think all of us have an opportunity to look at the whole value chain, at our place in it, who we are partnered with up and down that chain, and how we can make the best decisions overall, so that we can optimize the sustainability results from our efforts. And then on the right-hand side, this is just an image we're using at the moment in the promotion of the Green Homes grant to customers. So it's highlighting some of the products that are covered by that scheme, and we're really getting behind that. But there are so many other drivers out there which will help us all to get on board with sustainable construction and renovation. So the move away from gas use in new homes from 2025, the domestic renewable heat incentives being extended to 2022 and will then be replaced by the Clean Heat Grant. The renewable heat pump market itself is forecast to grow from about 35,000 units at the moment a year to over 1 million a year in 2030. I know we've got challenges in having the right number of trained installers in the background to be able to fit them, but there are reasons to be hopeful and market opportunities ahead. The Future Home Standard that was published and the upcoming changes to Part L and SAP will encourage us to start making these changes as well. We can help our customers to adopt new technologies. Sometimes they want solutions, not products. So for example, in City Plumbing Supplies, we don't just sell the renewable heating system, we also sell the design and estimation service with it, with full CAD designs. And that makes it easier for a customer to choose to take that product because we've offered more than just the product itself. Some customers are rating carbon above pricing in their tenders to us now, and that's partly because they're under pressure, particularly social landlords, to reach net zero carbon homes within the short term, and they need to be able to do that and work with merchant partners who can support them on that journey. So there's so many opportunities for us, modern methods of construction, the building information modelling to help to have more safety and social responsibility in our construction and avoid tragedies like Grenfell. Growing interest around product provenance, not just for timber and conflict minerals, I would suggest now for all products, if you think in the context of modern slavery and human rights. So the interest in the breadth of sustainability topics is growing, and our opportunity is to recognise what the key risks and opportunities are within our business and industry and how we can be part of it instead of being led there. I could go on, but I won't. There's many more opportunities, and I'd encourage us all to lead where we can, and if we can't lead on our own, then lead together. But thank you for listening. Hopefully a bit of food for thought, and look forward to any questions.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Megan, and hopefully you will hang around now and join us for the short panel discussion. I'd like to invite James Mitchell, Managing Director of Kerry's Commercial Systems, to join us. Welcome, James. I'm hoping that Lord Deben is still with us. Is he still with us?
Yes, he is.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. I think really I'd like to kick off the session with James. What are ERP providers to the BMF and Kerry specifically doing in their software to assist merchants to be more sustainable as businesses?
Thanks, Kevin, for the question, and thank you to Lord Deben and Megan for really insightful information there. I think it's kind of poetic that the topic is sustainability, and we're all acting on that by being in our houses now, as opposed to traveling to events. So the tech industry has always worked hard to ensure we're making processes and tech more digital, so we can do the job better at the workplace, as opposed to taking the workplace to the job. And certainly in the ERP industry, we strongly feel that we can do we are doing lots already, we need to do more. Simple things like printing, paper really should be expunged from our businesses. ERPs can email invoices, and interaction with supply chain can be done electronically as opposed to printing. And specific products like electronic point of sale and electronic point of delivery, connected to the internet all the time. Not only are they reducing errors in the supply chain and making customer satisfaction happy and building back office information straight away, but they're also stopping building manifests, getting bits of paper moved from the office out into the delivery drivers, getting signatures from customers. That paper has to come back in and be stored and scanned. So taking the technology to the job as opposed to taking the job for technology is a key mantra for us, and something we build into our products now and in the future for sure to reduce waste.
It's very much about reducing waste, and in terms of tools on your product roadmap for customers and prospects that enhance sustainability and the agenda in the industry, could you just give us a feeling for how this kind of product roadmap that you have actually is going to help?
Yeah, it's key to everything we do. We have to think about, do we need to build in something more efficient in there that's going to stop waste? So, for example, central requisitioning systems allowing for supply deliveries to be more effectively combined to multiple branch stock locations, therefore reducing vehicles on the road and all the associated carbon imprints of that. Back to paper again, easy document scanning, storing those documents online, not having those actually physically printed. That's going to help significantly in the purchase ledger area of the dealers. And of course, as we've seen dramatically over the last 6 months, the hottest topic out there is web trade. Builders merchants that have really done well in the last few months have had a great strategy around trading online, having their customers and their customers be able to trade with them online and efficiently deliver those products, hence cutting down journeys into the merchants to pick up products and make it more carbon neutral in delivering a product or buying a product. So web trade is key, and web trade into the interaction of the ERP is key. Delivering the product right, not having customers make journey because there's no stock in the branch. All these things are absolutely critical to digitize and show a joined up supply chain to reduce our carbon footprint everywhere.
Thank you very much. And a question I have for Lord Deben, do we need to be braver on the choice of products that we make and sell?
Well, I think bravery is a really good word. This is so much more urgent than many have thought. And actually, COVID has taught us that, hasn't it? Because if you looked at many big companies' risk lists, pandemics were on it, but never taken into account, because it was one of those risks that you had to admit were there, but you didn't think that it was really anything to do with you. The thing about climate change is, of course, that it's really right happening now. And being brave is actually what we need to react to the urgency. The longer you leave it, the more expensive it is. The quicker you're in the right place for it, the better your opportunities for making profits. So I think the word bravery is a very good one. It's just reminding us that we have to make decisions, we can't leave them, and we have to do it quickly.
So is it about not waiting to be led, but leading from your perspective? Is that what we need to do really as an industry?
Well, I think so. I've been working with many parts of the industry for many years. What I always want to say to people, and I think I'm allowed to say this as a former politician, don't, for goodness sake, leave it to the government, because they'll always get it wrong. The thing about government is that it never really understands industry. Those of us who come out of industry, go into government, are very, very few. In Mrs. Thatcher's cabinet, there were 3 of us. In the present government, I don't think there's one that actually run major businesses. And if you haven't done that, then you think in a different way. And civil servants, of course, largely haven't run businesses. So unless business takes the lead, what happens is that government has to act, and government can't act as effectively as we can because it doesn't know the ins and outs of how you deliver things. That's the strength of industry, is it knows what the market is, and it finds a way of getting the product to the market. And if ever there were an industry that's like that, it's yours. And that's how you make your money. It's recognizing where the market is, finding a way of supplying it, doing something to make the market better for you. All those things are the mechanisms which you've used right down through history. Those are the mechanisms that you need to use now to make the business that much more sustainable. Ask government to do it and you will have regulations which won't quite work, won't quite fit, will always be a matter of being second best. Do it yourself and government can then enhance it. Wholly different route. We should be there first.
So given that they may get it wrong, your words, and the mechanisms and the mechanisms that they might put into place, what do you feel they may do to expedite the sustainability process? How do you feel they may help?
Well, I think government should always set the parameters. It shouldn't tell you how to do things, but it should tell you that it should give the end line. So we should be talking about house building in which homes are as near as possible zero carbon. Now, how you do that, whether you do it by standing on your head and waving your legs in the air, that doesn't matter. I'm not interested in that's the outcome. Government should be concerned about the outcome. Now, if you're concerned about the outcome, the second thing the government should be concerned about is training people and giving people the ability to access information. I think at the moment people are very confused. I think a proper relationship between government and your industry would help people to be able to choose the right products, and through that also government can do a lot more to make sure that the people who install those products are properly trained. We do need a great deal more upskilling and uptraining. And the third thing the government can do, and it's a really important thing, is to ensure that there is proper control. I mean, it's no good saying we want houses to be built to a better level, which they certainly must do. It's absolutely necessary, and they will do it, I think. But you've also got to make sure that that's enforced. And at the moment, we have a very bad enforcement system. Very few local authorities ever enforce house building standards. They really don't do the job because they haven't got the resources. Now, I've got all sorts of ways of, I think those resources might be available and things that they don't need to do, which they do at the moment, but then let's get into that. What we do need to do is that if people build a new house which is supposed to meet a particular standard, they must constantly be aware that the local authority will properly test it. And I've always believed that they should then have to pull it down if they haven't built it properly. I believe you only have to have 2 of those and the house builders will build to the standards they're supposed to build to, which they're not doing now. And the same is true about we must have confidence in the quality of retrofit. You are going to provide the materials. The people who are doing the retrofit, we need to have confidence in them. And that's partly about reskilling. It's partly about people knowing who have got the proper qualifications. And it's partly about the government ensuring that things are properly inspected and properly enforced.
Thank you. Megan, you mentioned that defining sustainable products is difficult. Why is that? Could you give us an insight into that?
Yeah, of course. So sustainability means so many things. You know, it could mean less carbon. It could mean less waste. It could mean recyclable. It could mean that it was ethically sourced. You know, the list of attributes that you could hang under a sustainability banner, if you like, it is long. So and there's always trade-offs, so that's why I say it's difficult. I'm going to go to a Coca-Cola example like Lord Deben did, but I met their packaging VP recently, and he explained that the challenge around plastic waste is one that they're really facing into, but the challenge partly is that if they were to move all of those to aluminium cans, the carbon impact would rocket. So, you know, just almost a question of pick your evil. So there will always be trade-offs in determining what sustainability means for a product. And I think but don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. I think I'd encourage us to imperfectly do what we can rather than wait for perfect solutions. I know the CPA are working on ways in defining more sustainable products, and I think wherever we can all get in on the conversation to help develop that, it would be good. But yes, that's why it's difficult, but it shouldn't stop us getting involved and being part of figuring this out.
So how is Travis Perkins Group currently helping customers to choose more sustainable products or adopt new technologies?
In a few ways. So obviously getting behind the Green Homes grant at present, and helping people to understand how to engage and link in with the right training providers and find the right products. The City Plumbing team have long before the Green Homes grant offered the renewable heating with design and estimation, which is a great service that we've got. I think on a more customer-led basis, some of our regional bespoke builders I've been working with to help them to understand the sustainability credentials of products with some select manufacturers, and one of them being one of the sponsors today, Marshalls, who've been doing a great job with that. So there's different ways that we're doing it. I think there's a lot more opportunity in the coming years for us to do more on that.
Well, thank you very much indeed to all of our three panelists there. Very difficult to cover that subject in 10 minutes, a huge subject. I'm sure there are lots of questions that can be answered, and it's definitely a subject which should be extended further for further discussion without a shadow of a doubt. For me, the big headlines, the construction industry lies very much in the centre of what we need to do as a nation. Sustainability is about profitability. It's about building back better. Build, build, build. It's a future we know we have to have. And I don't think I'll forget the statement, follow the money, which I think is very much something that you could apply to where people are investing. Now it's time for a well-deserved comfort break. Big thanks to Lord Deben, big thanks to Megan, and a big thanks to James. As we move into the comfort break, obviously we're very much mindful of your health and well-being. So as our audience, we'd like to give you the chance to stand up and move around a little, get a drink, but please be back in 5 minutes for the launch of the BMF All Industry Conference in 2021. Thank you very much for 5 minutes.
Ben, will I be able to see myself now or not speak?
If you put on speaker view, you should be able to.
Roger's here. Can you see me?
I can see you, Roger.
Good. How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad.
Going all right.
Very good so far, actually. Yeah.
Ben, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Will you? We're going to start on time, aren't we? So
we're running about 5 minutes late.
Okay, yeah. But we will finish at past. Yeah.
Yes, ideally, perfect.
Yeah, and then with the second session, Ben, we'll finish at 1, won't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, great. That's great.
Thanks, Roger.
I need to shoot off at 1. Good. Now I need to go to gallery. Why can't I go to gallery view? Because there isn't a gallery view yet, is there? No.
Ben, can you not put that slide up, but put my slide up first?
I've just loaded up the video. That's what's showing right now. But do you want
Okay.
to just
Yeah. All right.
Want to go straight into the video? Or?
No, I just leave it. I'll come back and speak. Yeah. So there should be just a holding slide for me there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Okay, John, are you happy?
Yeah, I think so, Kevin. So are we about to kick off? Or do you want to wait? Do you want to wait another minute or so, Kevin?
Stephen, yeah.
Steve there.
I've just spoken to him, so he should be going in. Kevin?
Yes.
Being a very man of fashion, shall I put a darker shirt on?
I think you'd be fine.
Yeah, it's just because of that background. Is that all right?
It looks fine to me.
Roger, I think everybody can hear you, probably, by the way.
All right, okay.
Kevin, sorry you called me.
If you do a vote.
I missed it. Did you need me?
I just wanted to cross-check on time for kick-off, that was all.
Okay, yeah. Well, we're 5 minutes late now, so that's not the end of the world. So do you want to kick off now?
Absolutely, no problem at all.
Okay, John.
Thank you very much, Samantha.
So, welcome back. Big welcome back, everybody. We all know by now that John and his team, especially June, worked very hard on selecting the venues for their conferences. And we all know how John enjoys a really good reveal. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the CEO of the BMF, John Newcomb, who is going to present the launch of the BMF All Industry Conference for 2021. So over to you, John. Are you excited?
I'm incredibly excited, Kevin. I always am when we launch a conference. Obviously, this one's going to be different because we're launching it virtually for the very first time. But we've still got a video that we'd like to kick off just to give you a flavour of where the venue is going to be. So, Ben, are we ready to play the video, please?
Yep.
Okay, well, you now know there's been always speculation about where we would go and indeed whether we would have a conference at all this year. But as you can see, we've decided to hold next year's conference, which is called Building Beyond Boundaries, which we think is a particularly applicable title given the fact it's Brexit year, and also given the boundaries that we've all faced through COVID. So that is the conference theme, Building Beyond Boundaries. Yeah, perfect. The venue now, you know, is a dual centre location. It's Harrogate and York. It's actually the first time we've ever done a dual centre conference. Next slide, please. So why have we chosen Harrogate and York? Well, those people that know both of those locations, first of all, we have a beautiful city in York and a beautiful town, amongst the oldest in the UK. Excellent railroad and even flight access, if flying is allowed by then, of course, because Leeds Bradford is only 10 minutes away. Most importantly, we believe next year is about helping to support the UK hospitality sector, which has been particularly hit by COVID. We've got all sorts of excellent restaurant and conference facilities. Of course, it's set in North Yorkshire. Most importantly, as I said earlier, it's the first time the conference has ever been held as a two-centre location. And an interesting statistic for those guys that have attended conferences for many years is that it's actually the first all-industry conference to be held in the UK for almost 30 years. So the conference is coming home. Next slide, please. Just put a few facts about Harrogate there for those of you who don't know it. It's obviously known as the English Spa or was known as the English Spa in the Georgian era. It actually in 2013 beat the likes of Paris, Rome and Vienna to be named one of the world's most romantic destinations. So we expect everybody to take their partner. An interesting fact, by the way, it hosted the Eurovision Song Contest in 1982. And it was named the happiest place to live by Rightmove for the last 3 years running. Next slide, please, Ben. So key facts about York. It was originally a Viking city. Obviously, most of you know York Minster, largest Gothic cathedral in Northern Europe, took 250 years to build. It's also home to one of the largest railway museums in the world and has one of the oldest shopping centres, the Shambles, which most Harry Potter fans will know as Diagon Alley. And most importantly, of course, it's also known as the home of chocolate, where 1 billion Kit Kats are produced each year. Next slide, please. So we've chosen 2 hotels. Obviously, with the size of the group, we have to choose 2 hotels rather than 1, but they are 3 minutes walk away from each other. So you, obviously, the early birders that book can choose which hotel they stay in. The main hotel will be the Majestic Hotel, 4-star hotel set in 8 acres of landscape gardens. But we also have the Crown Plaza Hotel in Harrogate, which is a little bit more of a modern 4-star hotel, only 3 minutes walk from the Hilton Majestic. So obviously the events will be split between the 2 hotels. Next slide, Ben. First of all, I want to clearly thank our headline sponsor, which for the 2nd consecutive BMF conference will be Crystal. So a big thank you to Martin and all of the Crystal team for their support on putting this event together for next year. Next slide, please. I should also thank all of our key sponsors. So for example, on the welcome drinks reception, it will be Marsh Industries, who've consistently supported us throughout the last 3 or 4 BMF conferences. And then a new sponsor for next year will be Welcome, there will be Rockwell. We do have 2 key sponsorship opportunities available, and that will be for the pre-conference social activities on the Thursday. So if you flick over to the next slide, please. The cost of that key sponsorship package is £12,000. It's £1,500 lower than the overseas conference. Most importantly, it will allow you to bring 6 company delegates. So the only way you can bring 6 delegates is through the key sponsorship package. So those people that are potentially interested in one of these 2 key sponsorship packages that are remaining, please contact either June or myself straight after the presentation. Next slide, please. And the other major key sponsors of the event our conference host will be ACO. The exhibition itself will be the Builders Merchants News, BMN. The Gala Dinner Drinks Reception will be a new sponsor for next year, SIG. And then the Gala Dinner, the culmination of the conference. Again, it's great to have Kerridge on board as the sponsor of the Gala Dinner. So those are the 6 key sponsors of the event. Now, in order for you to book as a supplier, it's the same system. You can either book a platinum, gold or silver package. We do have early bird rates available. So for example, for a platinum package with 4 company delegates, that will be 6,849. Gold will be 3,699. So platinum's 4 delegates, gold 2 delegates, silver 1 delegate. We have 10 early bird packages available for platinum and gold. Silver is just 1 standard rate. And as always with the conference, we only have about 62 supplier places available. And as we have 250 suppliers in membership, we are expecting these to go quite quickly. So the whole thing will work on a first come, first serve basis. And you need a 50% deposit to secure that supplier place. For the merchants, and hopefully we'll get all of the merchants on the call today signed up either today or tomorrow, there's a £50 discount, a special day rate of $399 buys you the package for the whole event, which by the way is about £350 lower than we would normally charge for the overseas conference. So early bird rate is $449, standard rate is $499, but if you book today, and it's today only, you will get the £50 discount at $399. And we only have 30 conference price packages available at that rate. So please contact June or myself straight after the event today to get those reservations in place. Next slide, please. Just finally, we will be holding an exhibition. It will be different than normal. There will be no Meet the Merchant type event. And we've secured, I think, one of the best exhibition centres in the UK, the Yorkshire Events Centre. It's 10 minutes from Harrogate, and included in the suppliers' packages will be a free space at the exhibition. So again, we'll only have about 60, 65 maximum suppliers who will be able to exhibit at the event. So all of the conference and the event will be in the Yorkshire Centre. So next steps, key actions, what can you do from today? Well, if you're a manufacturer or a supplier, then you need to email June to register your interest and tell us at this stage what package you would be interested in supporting. If you're a merchant, you need to book online at www.bmfconference.co.uk. Of course, you can contact June as well, but the easiest and quickest way is to go directly onto that website link to secure the early bird rate. Please request a copy of today's presentation because obviously I've only had a few minutes to go through this, which gives you further detail. Just reminding you that early bird discount rates are limited availability, so you do need to book now to secure your space there. And put the dates in your diary, 17th to the 20th of June 2021. Obviously, we're assuming that there will be no social restriction guidelines at that stage. If there are, then your money will just be carried over to when we move the event. So there's no risk from your part in terms of booking the event, because that money will either be repaid or it will be carried over if we have to move the event. But I think we're all confident and hopeful that we can get back to those face-to-face meetings that we talked about earlier, that Nathan talked about in his presentation. So join us in North Yorkshire, superb location. We're coming home. We want to see as many of you there as possible. And I personally look forward to seeing you all there in June next year. Thank you. And back over to Kevin now to introduce Roger and Steve.
So thanks, John, very much indeed. What a great choice. Lots of positive comments on the chat. Excellent choice. Obviously, very, very smart move, investing back in the UK economy. And I'm sure a lot of people will be very, very pleased with that decision. Two great focal points for us to work towards in 2021, the BMF All Industry Conference, and of course the Olympic Games, which our two closing speakers are very familiar with. For over a decade, Steve Backley OBE was one of Britain's most consistent athletes and established himself as one of the all-time greats of his sport, with 7 gold championship medals, 3 world records, 2 Olympic silver medals and 1 bronze. He is the only British track and field competitor to win medals at 3 different Olympic Games in Barcelona, Atlanta and Sydney. His partner and longtime friend as an individual 400-metre runner and as a member of the 4x400-metre relay team, Roger Black, MBE, represented Great Britain for 14 years. He successfully overcame several serious injuries during his career, winning 15 major championship medals, including European, Commonwealth and World gold medals, and of course, the Olympic silver medal. Please welcome Steve Backley and Roger Black.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. Roger here. If I sort of kick off, we're really looking forward to the next half an hour, which gives myself and Steve the opportunity to really share with you some of our insights from what we learned so many years ago when we used to run around the track and in Steve's case, throw a stick as far as he could. We've worked in business together for a while, and everything we do is about performance. So it's all about performance, and particularly Olympic performance. And the space that we operate in is the space between talent and performance, because we knew at the Olympic Games that everybody there was talented, but the real test, when you look back over your career, was whether you could sustain performance, not just have one good year. And Steve and I are both proud that we had setbacks and injuries, but we managed to come back and keep winning the medals. So we're going to sort of give you some insights from an Olympic perspective about performance, and share that with you around a model that we've developed over many years. Over to you, Steve. Is Steve there? Have we lost Steve? I will carry on without him.
Oh, I'm back on now. Apologies.
He's in now. Here he is.
Yeah, so as Roger said, we spent 20 years competing in the Olympic Games. We're also ambassadors for 2012. And maybe a good starting point is to think about the athletes who will hopefully compete, as Kevin said in his introduction. Next year, the Olympic Games, as we know, has been bumped a year. What will the athletes be doing who are successful next year? The ones who are able to stand on the roster next year. And that kind of is a bit of a segue into something we're very passionate about around performance, around the mindset of successful performance, because our work in retirement is in translating that. We're fascinated as to why is it that the most talented don't always win in sport and in everyday life and in work and in business. Why is that the people who are most gifted don't always win? What is it that people have that are able to stand on an Olympic rostrum? So we reflected on that, and we built a performance model that we're going to use for this next half an hour or so, with just 5 key success traits. And we're going to use that to introduce some concepts, tell you some stories, and then when you come to the breakout room, we're going to talk about how we can actually help you to build these into your lives and to those of your people.
Okay, so if we can move on to the next slide, please, that'd be great. And it sort of should highlight the first performance trait. It's something that, we think everything starts here. It's what we call find your passion. It's not talent, because as we said earlier, everyone's talented at the Olympic Games. So let's discard that. Let's acknowledge it, but also discard it. And when we've worked with young athletes or help people in business, it's really asking that question, what is your why? And it's a very personal thing, but having that real clarity about what your passion is, in our case, not just to run fast or throw a long way, but actually to hold on to that dream of one day standing on the Olympic rostrum is crucial, because of course that's what gets you through the bad times. A great example of someone amongst our sort of peer group who I think really sort of symbolizes this is this person here. If we can move on to the next picture. Her name is Kelly Holmes. You may remember back in 2004, the Athens Olympic Games, Kelly won 2 Olympic gold medals, here in the 800 meters, then a few days later in the 1500 meters. What's interesting about Kelly is that for the sort of 2 or 3 years prior to this moment, she really struggled. She was one of those athletes who was always injured, always didn't quite do it when it mattered, was always struggling. And so many people said to her, look, you're getting on, Kelly, it's not going to happen. It's time to give up. Kelly didn't give up. She was in a really dark place physically, but she was also, and she's made it very public, in a very dark place mentally as well. She could have given up, but she didn't. She kept that dream, that passion, whatever you want to call it, alive. And when she came back a few years later in Athens to win those 2 Olympic gold medals, she was 34 years old. That's relatively old in the running game. And we respect her so much, not because she has 2 Olympic gold medals, because we know that basically she wasn't the most talented. She trained hard, yes, but the reason she won those medals was she had this burning desire and passion that no matter what happened to her, she wasn't going to give up. And that's why she really is a great example of somebody who identified with her passion and held on to it during the bad times. So we think that's the starting point for any performance journey.
Yeah, and if we could move on to the second trait there. So we found our passion, we know what our why is. And the second thing we like to ask individuals and teams is around belief. And the phrase that we came up with when we built this model around 10 years ago is those athletes and those people who can actually do this are the ones who can create empowering belief. And the key word in this phrase is create, because it's the acknowledgement that sometimes we don't believe in where we're going necessarily. Human nature often causes us to doubt. Similarly to the passion, that we might need to go find it. You might not always have that fire in your belly. And sometimes when it comes to belief, we might just need something in our toolbox to say, well, how do we go about that? Of course, there are some people who have this, in every pore of their skin, and they just believe in themselves. If I show you the next picture, and the good example of a guy who I'm sure many of you know of him, Usain Bolt, the man who won the triple, the 3 times Olympic champion at 3 separate Olympic Games. I mean, possibly the greatest athlete that ever lived. That photo is taken during a race. That's how much he believed, with a suave and a swagger that was pretty unique, and did it in an unprecedented way. But that's quite unusual. But what we found in most people, of course, is that sometimes we doubt ourselves and we question. So we can move on to the next slide, please. I just quickly, if I may, tell you how I learned this. And if there's one thing that I'd like to get across today, because I think this is an area where we all maybe just need a bit of help sometimes. Sometimes, we, especially in the current environment, we may be just questioning, doubting. There's maybe some anxiety, some fear. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty. So we have to take control of that. And I was sort of introduced to the ability to create this as a young aspiring athlete. I had these idea that these athletes were, unflappable belief in themselves. And I wasn't like that. I assumed that they were like these gladiatorial, godlike figures. And I remember walking into my first international competition only to be confronted by these big gladiatorial figures. And I thought, what do I do? And I remember the rain was coming down this particular evening. The athletes had taken shelter under one side of the javelin runway under some umbrellas. And I remember I walked over to take shelter with them. And something inside, when I got close to joining them, told me that I maybe wasn't welcome. Maybe I hadn't earned the right to stand under those umbrellas. Maybe I wasn't as good as them. And something inside told me to do a 90-degree turn and go and sit on a bench on the other side of the javelin runway, just so I wouldn't get in their way. When it came to my turn to throw, I took off my wet tracksuit. I ran in through the puddles and I unleashed the javelin with all my heart. And it flew out to a new British and Commonwealth record, much to my surprise. And also to the surprise of the competitors. I remember the faces. There was one guy in particular. There was a guy who was the best in the world at that time, a guy called Kazuhiro Mizuguchi. We all revered. And he came over to me and I thought, oh no, I'll upset him. What's he gonna do? And he turned out to be a lovely guy. He said, congratulations. He tapped me on the shoulder. He walked away. I realized in that moment that they weren't special. They weren't different to me. They were ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And what it did is it made it okay to dream. It made it okay to think about maybe one day being the best in the world, an audacious dream, an arrogant dream, some might say, to actually look yourself in the mirror and believe that one day you can be the best in the world, really? I was genuinely starting to believe that, and I took the growing confidence into the off season. And every training session, I was convincing myself, and that momentum, we use that word a lot. I created momentum, and early the following summer, something pretty special happened. And I've got an old video here to show you that's it's actually around 30 years old now. So if we'd like to play the, or push to the next slide. This is Stockholm 1990.
115, Stephen Backley, 6'5", Cambridge Harrier. The world's #1 last year, throwing on the home patch of Patrick Bowden, the Swede who's taken the world record in the off-season. The Commonwealth champion. He's in great form. The United Kingdom record holder with 88.46. This is first attempt. It looks slow, but it was a lashing of the arm that sends it way, way out. What a throw. What a throw from Backley. It's way over 85 meters. That might even be historic. Backley eased into that and then lashed it with his mighty big arm. And what a javelin competition we've got here. Watch this fella throw. He's now chasing a world record of 89.10, and the fella that set it is standing next to him. And look at that for a launch. An astonishing opening throw. All eyes are on the scoreboard now. It's there! Backley's leaping in the air. 89.58, a new world record, and that's his opening throw. Stephen Backley's opening throw, his first chance to meet the Swede Bowden. He's come on his home patch. It was always there. It's just got to go right, he said. He couldn't have done it anywhere better. He's inundated with photographers and other javelin throwers who want to wish him well.
Things were going pretty well. I didn't actually notice, Kevin pointed out earlier, how I nearly poked that guy's eye out with the javelin before I threw that. I didn't notice that so much until recently. And I also, as time goes by, I realised how dodgy that shell suit is that I put back on after. It was an amazing time. And it came as a result, like I say, of momentum, but building a confidence, building a belief. And I went on to, you know, actually the story goes on, and I want to pause there though, because I'm conscious that we've thrown some really important concepts at you, and I want to bring Kevin in here if I can to maybe just unravel those first two traits as we've introduced.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Steve. I still can't help noticing the guy ducking in the background before you proceeded onto the launch platform. I'm sure that could have been a whole different finish had you not had the guy ducking behind you. Roger, find your passion was the first trait you introduced. How has this worked for you in retirement from sport, and why is it important given where we are right now in the world?
It's a great question, Kevin. If I'm really honest with you, it has been tough. I don't think it's something like you have your passion and that's it for the rest of your life. It was actually quite easy as an athlete because I knew I had this opportunity to do something most people couldn't do. It was very exciting. I couldn't do it forever. And the dream was to stand on the Olympic rostrum, which I managed to achieve. So I was very passionate about athletics. The day you retire is very different because you've got the rest of your life ahead of you and you're never going to be as good at anything ever again. So yeah, it was tricky, and it took me a while, if I'm really honest, from a business perspective. You know, I did lots of stuff, some speaking, some television, but actually the passion for me came in business when actually Steve and I got together and set up a business together to have someone alongside me, and we'll come on to that a little bit later, and to share the dreams was really, really important. It's also been very challenging during lockdown. I'm sure it has for many, many people. We've had to reinvent our business. We've had to think differently about what we do and how we do it. Like yourselves, Kevin, you know, we can't be in a room. We can't do what we naturally love to do. So we had to diversify. We have 2 or 3 sort of businesses, but we've had to think differently. And it hasn't been easy. It's been a challenge. The passion has been challenged, but we have together found this passion to move forward and adapt. So it's not simply, yeah, loads of passion, off we go. it's ups and downs, and I think that's fine. The important thing is to keep trying to find it.
Keep trying to find it. I think we're all very much trying to find it at the moment, and I couldn't agree more. It is actually keeping that passion. Steve, when you introduced the creation of empowering beliefs, and something that is particularly important given the challenges that we faced through the summer, can you elaborate the rationale behind that?
Yeah, I think it's why we particularly think that the performance traits fit more now, actually, than they ever have. I mean, like I said, we built this model 10 years ago, but when it comes to belief, when there's so much uncertainty, we talk a lot about getting ready. You know, as athletes, we would have trained for 8 months to get ready and then compete for 3 months and then have a month off. So the majority of the year the focus was being ready. And a big chunk of that is really believing, because, you know, if you're not ready when you walk into an Olympic stadium, and Roger and I, you know, we both did this the right way and the wrong way, and particularly, I might just tell you briefly in a second how that went, but the ability to do that right now with an ever-changing environment backdrop of the economy, you know, what we can and can't do, we just cannot forecast anything. But if we're ready for anything, with the belief that we can cope with anything, we've got it right. And that's where Roger and I come from. That's what we help others to do, to build into their lives.
So I guess a key question for both of you, and I'd like you both to answer separately. Can each of these first two traits be learned? And if so, how do we do it?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, you know, I think many people assume that they can't, but the recognition is, I can certainly say from a personal point of view, I was never one of those athletes who had lots of belief. I had to create it. And we're going to come on to this at the end and show you something that will help you, your people, and what, you know, skills that we use and tools that we used that we can actually share with you how to, not that recognize that you can build them into your lives, but we're going to actually show you how to do that.
I think, Kevin, anything can be learned as long as you have what they call a growth mindset. You know, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to improve, then you can make changes. If you're fixed in your ways and you're not, then it's a choice. And I think as an athlete, we had no choice. We had to have that growth mindset. So I think you can learn, you can improve.
And the saying that, you know, if you think you can, and if you think you can't, you're absolutely right. It is relevant now more than ever.
So obviously very much about embracing change. Would you see yourselves in the early part of your careers as catalysts for change, or do you think that came later on?
It's part of a successful mindset, and a successful strategy is to continually change, and, you know, to change when you're at the top. You know, a lot of people get criticized when they change, when they get to the top of their game, but it's essential, because if you continue doing what you've always done, and when you've got the target on your back, you're not going to improve. As Roger said, the growth mindset means that you have to, of course, keep improving no matter what's happening. You have to push forward.
So it's sustaining excellence, very much the theme for today. You know, what's the single biggest lesson that you could share on sustaining excellence, both of you?
I think it's exploring the possibilities of what is out there. We tend to do a lot of what we, you know, out of habit. Around 50% of what we do on a day-to-day basis is born out of habit. And I think if we can spend a lot of our thinking time in the other 50%, then we are going to go somewhere into accessing that sort of vast area of unexploited potential that we all have.
I think a good way maybe is if we move on to the next two traits, because I think there's a lot of that in the next two traits. I mean, the next one is what we call power through clarity, which is, you know, was a luxury in the world of sport, having absolute clarity, knowing the day, the time, the place at the Olympic final. And I think high performers do develop an enormous amount of clarity. And then Steve has got a sort of a quick sort of story on clarity for him that resulted in arguably, you know, one of his greatest ever performances.
Yeah, it did, Roger. If I just quickly may, I'll just share with you this performance model. It came off the back, by the way. I got my medals out. I didn't clean them off. So I'll give them a little dust off here. I hope you can see that. I had a bronze medal from the '92 Olympics. I messed up and took a bronze. I was introduced as world record holder and I didn't win. And I learned a lot that day. I haven't got time to talk about it, but I wanted to show you that because that was the backdrop. Because at the next Olympic Games, despite having an injury and whatever, it didn't go well, but I managed to salvage and take a silver medal. Possibly my best performance ever. I'm very proud of that medal in particular because it would have been easy to walk away. So I wanted to put a performance plan in place that's made it as likely as possible that I was going to take the elusive gold medal in Sydney 2000. That was the next Olympic Games, and that was where I wanted to deliver and have clarity. What I wanted to do was have 4 years where I knew where I was going. And this is the simple model on the screen now. Just very, very quickly. The outcome goal is the why. That's the bit in our hearts that tears us out of bed in the morning. That's the bit that kind of gives us the reason to go in pursuit of our dream. But it's more of a feeling. It doesn't necessarily have to have a target. It could be, you know, the why could be something fluffy. It could be a dream. It doesn't matter. So long as it gives us the fuel, the impetus to go in pursuit of our dreams. And then planning backwards, the why in our hearts becomes a performance goal, as we called it, in our heads. This has to be tangible. This is something finite. This is something measurable. And what we found is a lot of organizations and a lot of people tend to jump into the numbers quite quickly. Did you have a good year? Well, yeah, we had a turnover of X, or I earned X amount of money. That's a performance goal. What we encourage people to do is to come up with that outcome goal first, plan it backwards, have the outcome first, then the performance goal, and then make sure that the process goals are aligned to the performance goal. So the process goals is the stuff, the things that we get on with it on a daily basis, you know, the emails, the phone calls. If that is aligned to where we're going, we have a good chance of creating the outcome. And of course, we can all just get busy. And then what it allows us to do is to get into the present. And all the performance coaches and psychologists talk a lot about this in sport, is get in the present, especially in a sales room as well. Really be present is the process goal. How did that work for me? Well, just very quickly, before I hand back to Rog, we had an outcome goal. We wanted that elusive gold medal, and that gave us a dream. That was the why. Didn't need to really challenge that. That was out there. The performance goal was interesting because we said if we wanted to make that as likely as possible, then an Olympic record was on. We had to make a plan of 89.66 meters. So all of a sudden we knew the speeds, the angles, all the stuff. And then we could break that down. And when I say we, this was a team of 13 people, into what we would do on a daily basis. And I remember walking out into the stadium in Sydney 2000, and I talked earlier about being ready. I felt ready like I never had before. I was almost bubbling over with excitement at the prospect of getting it on, of competing. It was an amazing feeling. And I believe that it was as a result of this simple planning model. Of course, there was lots more to it, a lot more, you know, technical stuff and detail. But I felt ready because we planned that 4 years out, and we reassessed it and so on. The comp started, and I realized that others turned up with similar optimism. But in the second round, I've got a video just to show you what happened in the second round, and then I'll tell you about what happened as a result of that competition. Let's have a look at this.
Steve Backley again looking aggressive. If he gets the run up right, he could launch a big throw. Attacks it once again. That is long. Steve Backley has thrown a beautiful throw. It's a new Olympic record. Stuart, I haven't seen Steve Backley as psyched up for a competition as this for many, many years. Look at the face of Jan Zalesny. His Olympic record is gone. The Olympic champion is going to respond to it. Steve Backley's in fantastic shape. He could go even further. That is the face of a possible Olympic champion.
Well, who would have expected that at this stage? That's a real man of pedigree. And Backley hit that javelin so hard, he knew it as soon as he released it. And the new Olympic record to a Briton who's medalled in the past, 89 meters and 85 in the second round, and that does augur well, doesn't it? New Olympic record for Steve Backley. Absolutely superb, Paul.
It's funny looking back there. I remember being on the runway, and I remember looking across to the scoreboard, and it came up after you saw there, 30 seconds later, S. Backley GBR, 89.85 meters. And in big capital letters, it had OR. And I remember thinking, oh, what? Like, have I missed something? And the reason for that, I got so in the present. I was so in and forgot about really where the performance goal and the outcome goal, but I had that clarity. There was more to the story. And I've got the medal here. Jan Zalesny, the guy who got a mention in the VT there, had a little bit more to give. He beat me that afternoon by a few centimeters very late on. So my story actually isn't the Cinderella story of bronze, silver, gold. In fact, I was beaten there into second place. And we often ask the question to translate a lot of what we talk about, what is success for you? And I was quite confused with that at the time. With reflection, of course it was a success because I'd hit my performance goal, and we can't always guarantee the outcome because we can't control what other people do, in the same way as we can't control the environment and the economy and everything that's going on around us, but we can commit to a performance goal. And that's what we encourage people to do. And that's why we talk about clarity being the third of the success traits. And I'll pause there. I'm conscious we're short on time, and hand to Roger to pick up on the fourth trait.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Yeah, I mean, the fourth trait is what we call surround yourself with talent. You can call it teamwork, you can call it collaboration, whatever you want to call it. It's fundamentally the belief that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. And it's absolutely my favorite trait. It's one of the reasons I didn't do athletics as a kid. I didn't see it as, I saw it as an individual sport, and I love team sport. So I avoided athletics until I left school at 18. I just like to play games. But for me, I look at my career, and my training partner was a guy called Chris Akabusi, you may have heard of. Without Chris Akabusi, I wouldn't have achieved half the things I did throughout my career. He, of course, wouldn't have achieved anything. The reason for that is we just had this amazing relationship. We synergized together, and we just took each other to areas of performance that we wouldn't have done individually. And maybe that's the same with myself and Steve in our business life. But my greatest achievement as an athlete individually was winning the Olympic silver medal at the Atlanta Olympics in '96 behind the great Michael Johnson. He was incredible. I wasn't going to beat him, but I achieved my very, very best and won an Olympic silver medal, which is like a gold medal to me as a performance. But one of the most memorable moments of my career was when I was part of a relay team. So I was really allowed to, I had the luxury of really surrounding myself with talent on a regular basis. In 1991, I was part of a British relay team that famously made a bit of British sporting history. We're at the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo. We were never expected certainly to win it, because we were up against the Americans, who were by far the best team. The British team back then, I'd like to show you a picture of the team, was made up of myself, and I'm there. You can see me there. It's quite obvious. And then next to me, on one side, is a guy called Derek Redmond. Derek was such a talented athlete. But Derek Redmond, funny enough, is very famous for something that happened to him in adversity on the track rather than success. I don't know if you remember at the Barcelona Olympics, Derek Redmond pulled his hamstring muscle in the first 100 meters of the 400-meter semi-final at the Olympics, and then he collapsed onto the floor. And then this happened. There's a picture coming up now with Derek. His father jumped onto the track and carried his son around the track and through the line just so that his son could complete his Olympic journey. Derek actually never ran again after that day, which was a year later than the relay race I'm about to share with you. But an amazing athlete. Then if you go back to the picture, or forward to another picture, then the guy on the other side of me, his name is John Regis, a very famous athlete, a 200-meter runner. But if you paid him enough once a year, he'd give it a go running the longer relay. And then, of course, right at the end, my mate Chris Akabusi, who was getting on a bit. He was a pretty old athlete, but he was so experienced at running a relay. Very quickly, I haven't got time to go into the whole story, but we had a normal way of doing things. We had a winning formula. You put your best athlete on the last lap, okay athlete on the first lap. You chuck the other two in the middle. So the team manager said, Roger, you're going to go last because you're the fastest runner in the team. Chris, Derek, you go first. Chris, you go second. John, you go third. That was how we did it. Off you go, chaps. But we knew as a team that just wasn't going to give us the opportunity to become world champions. We knew we had an opportunity to do something special because it was the first time the four of us had been healthy, and we were all in good shape. So we knew that we had to do something different, and we had to change the running order. And basically what we had to do was to go from being a reactive team, reacting to the Americans, to being a proactive team and to take the initiative to them, which meant we had to put our best athlete on the first lap to go first, which was me. Just by the way, when you're the fastest runner in the team, you never run first. The reason for that is quite simple, is that if you do run first and that team wins, you don't get your picture in the paper the following morning. It's always the athlete who runs last who gets all the glory. But as we know in all great teams, you have to put your ego to one side for the greater good of the team. So I go first, hand over to our second fastest runner, Derek Redmond, to keep us in contention with the Americans. He'll hand over to John Regis, who will hopefully be stuck right behind an American, breathing down his neck on the third lap. And then he'll hand over to Chris Akabusi on the last lap, who will use all that experience and knowledge and enthusiasm to hopefully bring us back, bring us through the line and win the gold medal. And of course, historically, that is what happened. I'm going to show you the race now, but what was really important for me is that we made that decision collectively as a team. It wasn't a management decision. We took ownership of our destiny. We took full accountability for our performance. And we had a belief in each other that was far greater than any belief each of us had individually in ourselves. And when I stood behind the line ready to run the first lap, I wasn't running for Great Britain. I have to be honest with you. I wasn't focusing on my performance. I was focusing on delivering for my teammates, Derek Redmond, John Regis, and Chris Akabusi. So we'd just like to sort of close this bit of the presentation by showing you a very famous relay race. So here we go.
The wind freshening as they get away, and Roger Black in lane number 3 goes straight away, closes right down on the Jamaican. The American Valmont has started fast as well. Into the back straight though, it's Black at this stage who's cut right back on the Jamaican Pat O'Connor. Also going well is Valmont of America, and right on the outside, Keter of Kenya. The first leg run in lanes and the first bend of the second leg, and then they can break. The stagger and winds, we'll begin to see how they sort it out. But the important point is the breaking point on the second leg at the beginning of the back straight. Black has done a good one, but so too has Valmont. But Black on the inside is closing him down all the time. And the handoff point, well, it's very close between America and Great Britain, but I think Great Britain have just got the edge. Derek Redmond now, the UK record holder from Birchfield on the second leg. Quincy Watts going for America. Black 44.6 on the first leg, that's some run. And Britain got the lead they wanted. They've now got to start increasing it because they've got to give Akabusi a healthy start on the anchor leg. Derek Redmond being chased by the teenage Quincy Watts and cornered by the American. But has Redmond saved something? Battling down the straight. It's a brilliant leg by the American youngster. Quincy Watts has got America right back in, and has the British gamble failed? John Reid is on the third leg, and he's chasing Danny Everett. The time for Redmond, 44.1, so Watts run a stormer. John Regis, inexperienced at this distance, right behind the World Championship bronze medalist, Everett. When will Regis attack? Has he got the ability to attack? A seasoned 400-meter runner. Regis comparatively inexperienced. And Everett stretching slightly away. Regis comes wide to have a go. And Regis can't quite get there. America will take over in the lead with their world champion pedigree on the anchor leg. Akabusi goes after him. The difference is 3 meters. Now Akabusi has got to sit there and wait and make a late attack if he can. But he's up against the man who is the world champion. The race between the two of them, and the leg by Regis 44.3. And still Akabusi waits. Pettigrew with goal behind him in the individual event. Akabusi, bronze in the 400 hurdles. Here he goes. This is the important point. Can Akabusi do it? Akabusi has a go, and the American is beaten, and he's fighting back. Akabusi has made it. Akabusi, gold for Britain. America second, and Jamaica third. And the time, 2:57.54, a new British, a new Commonwealth, a new European record, and the gamble paid off.
That was an amazing time. It's lovely to see some of the comments of people reliving this. It was such a long time ago. So I'm pleased you're reliving your youth. Look, very quickly, and we haven't got time to go into a lot of detail around that race, but if you look at our performance traits, I think that race encapsulates them all. Not the right word. Of course we had passion. The four of us had a passion like I've never had before. We were so passionate, and that was magnified because there were four of us being passionate together. We created empowering belief. We absolutely believed by changing the running order that we could change the race and we could win the race. We absolutely created empowering belief. We had clarity. The clarity was clear. We knew what we had to do. I won't go into too many, I can't go into the details, but everyone had a job to do in that team, and each of the four of us absolutely had clarity of what they had to do, and they did it. And obviously we were surrounded by each other, and we surrounded our talent. And it led us to the fifth trait, which is quite simply what we call delivering your maximum. And I can safely say that on that day, at that moment in time, the four of us delivered our maximum, and as a result became champions of the world.
Well, thank you very much, Roger. Steve, if I could just ask you, you talked about power through clarity being the third trait. I know you're both in business together. I know that you've successfully worked together investing and developing property, very much connected to the industry. How have you used that insight in your business lives?
Yeah, do you know what? Roger and I started about 4 years ago investing together. I've always been into property as an investor. We retain property, but then more recently we started some development work as well, going out the ground and loving it. And we love the project of applying what we used as athletes for that clarity. And we actually use that model that we introduced when we go to, work with the team and work with the various trades in our conversions and our developing of property. And it's almost like being athletes again. So yeah, we're certainly translating what we did from back in the day into our current lives in that field.
And Roger, just to conclude, surrounding yourself with talent. I passionately believe in that myself, and I think a key fourth trait. Is this something that you will still do and continue to do to grow your business aspirations?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our businesses are all around. Everything's around with performance, helping people improve their performance. Whether it's in wealth through property, whether it's in mindset through what we're doing today. And there's health as well. I have a fitness brand, and having to put together a new team and getting that team right for me, knowing myself, if I have to work with people I can connect with. It's very challenging for me if I don't. I also have to step back from that. But I really do believe that if you're setting yourself a goal, if you can surround yourself with not just talent, but just people who maybe have different skill sets, but you can just fire off, then you can allow people then to do the job they're doing individually, but you're doing it as a collective, as a team. So for me, I'm always better when I surround myself with other people.
Well, many thanks to you both, Steve and Roger, for your presentation. I know there's much more to come from your mind-setting taster session, which the BMF are launching today as part of the workshops that you can now join. There's an ongoing relationship between Steve, Roger and the BMF, and they're going to be working closely with the training and development team over the coming months. For me, taking away from that session, go fast alone, go far together. I think that's something right at the heart of what the BMF and indeed the whole industry stands for, going far together. And obviously looking at how we can sustain excellence together has been very much the theme of this morning. And I hope you've enjoyed the quality of this morning's speakers. I think it's been absolutely tremendous. No doubt we will all be reframing our approach, if we haven't already done so, to adapt to whatever the new normal is. So to help you and obviously for your business support, the BMF are obviously putting together a series of excellent workshops to follow this session now. But before we go, I must again thank very much indeed our sponsors and all of our speakers. We really appreciate your support today. Thanks again to John, June and the BMF team for allowing me to be part of it. Really appreciate the opportunity to join the webinar today. And obviously to explain how now you can join these sessions, I'm going to hand over to Ben Folkes and wish everyone a successful end to the year. Ben is part of the team helping to host today. They are Elemental. This is an online community for professionals focused on heat, water, air and energy, very much at the heart of the theme of the day of sustainability, looking at how we can effectively manage these vital elements within the built environment now and in the future. Importantly, a footnote, Elemental is also a meeting place for advancing innovations in heat, water, air and energy, and their event is taking place at Excel, London, 29th, 30th September 2021. So a big thank you again to everybody for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I hope you'll stick with us now into the breakout sessions. I know lots of work has gone into those and making those really helpful and really impactful. And obviously I'm going to pass over to Ben to explain exactly how you'll be able to do that. So thank you everybody again for attending today.
Yep, sure. So all that we're doing now is we're going to open up a breakout room in Zoom. So in a moment, you will get a pop-up notification on your screen, which will invite you to join breakout room 1. If you wish to do so, the talk that's going on in there will be on apprentices and the diploma in merchant management from Richard Ellithorne and Carmen Daly. And that will be for the first half an hour. And the second half an hour is with Trustpilot with Neil Baton. If you don't wish to join either of those sessions, and you can stay in the main room, so just click decline or click no on the pop-up that appears on your screen, and you'll stay here with Steve and Roger for the first session, and then we have another session on leadership with Sue Reed. At any point during these sessions, if you'd rather flip out and join the other one, you should still have the option on your screen to, if you're in the breakout room, it will say leave room, so choose leave room, not leave the whole meeting. If you leave that room, you can come back to the main room, and at any point in the main conference room, you will still have the option at the bottom of your screen to click join that breakout room. Hopefully that is all clear. So I'll open that notification now, and so click yes to join the breakout room 1 and click no to stay here with Steve and Roger. Okay, I'm going to let people, as people sort of move off, we will be left with however many people choose to stay. So Steve, Roger, over to you for the breakout presentation.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Hopefully some of you stayed. We'd like to continue the theme and actually pick up on something Kevin said in his questions there, is can the traits that we introduced, excuse me, be learned? And part of that last trait that flashed up on screen there, delivering your maximum, is what we'd like to do, because we've got a special offer for you today in a product that we built during lockdown, actually. And what we thought, Roger and I, spoke, obviously events finished, and we know that's why we're here today on Zoom. We spoke and said, well, what if we were able to pick up on all of the anecdotes, the little nuggets, what are the little special things over the past 20 years or so of being at conferences, being around performance, analyzing. So what if we were to pick those up as little nuggets and drop them into a product with short videos that allowed somebody to go through a training program in their own time? So what we've developed is a product called Mind Setting. Mind Setting is essentially that. It's actually 5 sections, 4 videos per section, with a course companion that allows users to take control of their own mindset. And we feel that it's probably more critical now, and why we're so passionate about this, and why we want to make this offer to you today. We'll finish with a bit of a special offer just for today at the end of this presentation. But a bit about the product and why we come about it. I've got a short presentation. I'm just going to share my screen, if I may. Hopefully you'll be able to see. We've just got a few slides here that, hang on.
Yeah, that's good.
Have I still got, okay.
You're in, Steve. Yep.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, we talked about the, you know, Roger and I love being on stage, but this is kind of the next best thing. And actually, in many ways, we've stepped up a gear, because by giving people the opportunity to take control in their own time and grab onto those little nuggets, we feel that maybe we can have even more impact. Because with all the will in the world, the best conference you've ever been to, you might remember 1 or 2 things a year later. Whereas with this program, what we're encouraging you to do is practice. So end users have an opportunity to be introduced to a concept that we feel is vital, and to practice it. And we feel that practice is a really important element. As if we just go through this slide deck, you know, jump in when you want, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, really, you know, this has come about, and I'm sure it's the same for many people in business over the last 6 months. You're faced with a situation where you can't do what you normally do. So you think, okay, and we had a lot of our clients saying, well, we've done a lot of Zoom sessions, but they said, you know, what else can we give our team? You know, people need stuff because people's habits have changed. People are staying at home, they're working from home. So what can we give them? So we basically, in lockdown, we created these series of videos, and in quite a rough and ready way, which we thought, oh, well, how's that going to be? And universally, people actually like that, because we're all in the same boat. We're all living through this. So my setting is a series of videos that we've created with the course companion as well, which Steve will talk about in a bit more detail. But you know, the features and benefits is it's video based, obviously. We share our sporting analogies. We also have our head of training, who's not a sports person, a guy called Paul Mallinson, who's from the corporate world and has worked in learning and development all his life. So he's in some of the videos as well with us. They're just short videos, bite-sized learning, looking at a lot of the topics that we've just touched on in the half-an-hour presentation we had. I mean, we obviously didn't have time to really go into too much detail about, but it's really sharing that knowledge and creating that shared experience for people, that people can access those videos whenever they want, as many times as they want, and then collectively as teams discuss the content and us to facilitate through intervention through Zoom.
Yeah, so there's a screenshot of the portal, whether you're watching that on a laptop or your mobile device. It pops up, it streams. It's a short video, so it's not too onerous, which kind of goes in line with the bite-sized learning approach that is well-founded and well endorsed as a way of learning. You know, it's dropping those small thoughts in. We encourage users to maybe do, you know, 1 or 2 a day, or whatever fits your schedule. So it's not too onerous. There's only 20 of them in total. And then have the opportunity maybe to go back, because what we've heard from the users on the program is that something you'll kind of just linger around in your mind. It might be around change. It might be around finding your passion. It might be around dealing with adversity, dealing with setbacks. You know, 20 of the key aspects are covered. But what tends to happen is a few days down the line, something happens in your world and you go, hang on a second, that makes more sense now. So of course, as an end user, you have the opportunity to go back and re-watch that video, re-engage with the course companion about, but essentially take on practice. I mean, Roger and I as athletes are quite keen on this, obviously. You know, we didn't, you know, we spent, as I said earlier, the majority of our lives practicing. You know, we practice and hone techniques, and that repetition, not only physically, you know, obviously a picture of the gym there. You wouldn't go to the gym once and expect to get stronger or faster or fitter, but you would go back and make small gains. And it's that amalgamation of marginal gains that is well documented in sport, that applies in exactly the same way to our mindset. And never has there been a more important time for you or your people, more importantly, to have this. So we're really keen to share this with you, to share this with your teams, as they can then take control of their own mindset. Yeah. I said 1 key message per day. Sorry, Roger, pick up there.
Yeah. Just I think one of the things, I mean, we all learn in different ways, but I think we all do have sort of two parts to our brain. One is what you may call the sort of the logical part, the hare brain. That's where the sort of phrase hare brain comes from. And then there's the subconscious bit, which is more the tortoise brain. And what I like about the way I learn in bite-sized learning is that, and what I love about the videos, I think where they can be useful, and some of the feedback we're getting, because they're easy to access and they're not onerous, and we're touching on topics, it can just plant a seed, and you can leave that and then let the sort of your subconscious sort of think about it. And then the processing and a thought will come later on. And so what we're trying to do is we're just trying to jolt people's minds with our content in a really easy, accessible way. And if people can get something that makes them go, I either think, yeah, that's really interesting and applies to me now. We were with a client the other day, and one of the videos we talk about eating a frog. Yeah, do the thing you don't want to do the most. To do that first, get that out of the way. A very simple concept. And there was a company we're working for, and that was the one that resonated with them, which blew me away. It's like, really? But for them, it absolutely was something they weren't doing at work. And they just all got excited about that concept. It's just in one video. So those videos can nudge you to think a different way. And then with a team of people, say, what do you think of that video? And have that, if the videos become a catalyst to people discussing topics, which of course is becoming harder, obviously, in the present circumstance, then they've been of value. And that's what we're enjoying with the feedback we're getting from clients, that it's stimulating discussion, it's stimulating thought. And at this time, especially, that's a really valuable thing. Steve's brought up the course companion. We've created a course companion to go along with all the videos, and there are some practices with all the videos. So maybe, Steve, you want to talk about this in a bit more detail?
Yeah. Just to mention, each user will receive a PDF, which is a 32-page. Sounds heavy. It's not. It's pretty much a page per topic, with 20 topics, and each topic then has a practice for you to be able to start to translate that key concepts. For example, so here's another screenshot of that PDF. For example, change. So, massive part, and a lot of people's nervousness, anxiety is the change and uncertainty that's around. And there's a lovely model here that comes from the training room that was many years ago. Kubler-Ross is a famous change model that we talk about, and we talk about that in the video, but then we give you the opportunity to take that on board. And what that helps people do is make sense of how they're feeling. So if, for example, you go through 4 quadrants, you go from denial to resistance to exploration and then commitment. So you start off, no, it's not happening to me. This isn't happening. You're in denial. There might be a resistance. Well, I'm not going to change, and why should I change? And then you might think about exploring that. Okay, what do I need to do? And finally, it's like, right, we're going to do this. And of course, what the theory tells us, we have to go through those 4 quadrants. And what we found is once people are aware of that, they're then more likely to be able to take control and manage their emotions that go along with that. It might be anger, it might be frustration, it might be confusion, whatever it is, it's a structure. I think the best phrase to describe what this whole thing is about is it's a toolkit. It's a toolkit to cope. And we feel that if we can give you that to give for your people to be ready, so whatever the future throws at them, they have a toolkit to be able to deal with it, to not only survive, and to cope, but potentially to thrive through change. We started earlier about the athletes, the Olympians who will do well next year. They're the ones who are most agile, the ones who are most creative, the ones who think adaptively. And that's what the program's all about. But I just wanted to introduce one of the topics there. We go into much more detail and we give you the opportunity to practice it. So just to start to summarize, again, jump in, Roger, if there's anything on it. I think we've covered they're the 5 stages of the program, 4 videos per stage. You mentioned the course companion. A key part of this is practice, which we don't necessarily get in a conference when stuff is bombarding us. But there is an opportunity this just to jump in, bite-sized learning, take it on a daily or bi-daily basis. You control that yourself, and off you go. So
and there's also flexibility with how you integrate the program. So for some of our clients, and it goes down really well. We would do a Zoom session to begin with. Similar to today, but a longer time, where we would introduce ourselves, do a big presentation, blah, 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 and then we'd introduce the mind setting program. So there'd be a Zoom session up front. People would then get full access to the videos. Time would pass, maybe a few weeks where everyone's had time to sort of think about the videos, talk about it, and then we'd come back and do a follow-up Zoom session, myself and Steve, and probably Paul, our trainer, as well, to really discuss some of the videos and the topics that particularly resonated with the group, and then facilitate that discussion amongst the group, and use the word catalyst again, and it's really rewarding to see that these very simple videos have been a catalyst for people to discuss performance, either personally or as a group in the workplace. So and then the other option simply is just access to the videos, but we're obviously happy to, and Kevin will facilitate to talk and be as flexible as possible so that you can maximize the benefit of the program for your team.
So when we started talking with John and the BMF team, and thanks guys for the opportunity to share this product with you, we thought, well, what a great idea it might be to make a special offer. You know, we feel that we want to make it good value anyway. You know, to give you an idea, it works out, you know, as much or less than, in fact, £100 per user on an ordinary basis. But for today, and we've opened this offer for the next week, is to make that 2 for 1. So, you know, what we hope you'll see is amazing value. You get all the videos. Each user will get access to all those videos. They'll also, each individual will get a course companion, and they'll be able to revisit those videos. We've set up to a year, but that's just because as technology changes, just to make sure. But in our minds, they're open for as long as we can keep them available to you via our portal. As you can see there, that if you're interested in giving this opportunity to your people, there's an email address. A Paige is going to help with that. I think that's the switchboard number. Ask to speak to Paige, and register your interest. And if you'd like to chat further and drop us a line and know more about it before you commit, that's fine. But it's pretty straightforward. You know, we've recapped enough. I think, you know, the product is essentially the last 20 or 30 years of our performance lives, and we're passionate about this. It's the very, very best bits in bite-sized chunks. So we hope that you see that as good value, and maybe that's a good opportunity to hand back to Kevin if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm still here, very much still here.
Good man. We'll hand back to you, Kevin. I don't know if there's any questions, anything that we haven't maybe clarified there that springs to mind.
No, I think you know, we hear the phrase mindsetting and positive mindset culture, you know, sort of quite a lot. And I just would ask you, what would you say to the people in the audience who have the ongoing challenge now of keeping their teams engaged whilst in many cases working remotely? What sort of impact will this have on that challenge?
That was really the driver. That was our motivation for building the product. You know, yes, we can do our presentations down Zoom as we've done today, but we wanted to add more value. We wanted people to have something to go away with. We felt that it complements a short presentation through the screen, you know, high live, you know, whatever you say, to get a feel for what we're about and our backstory and our, you know, but it's not about us. It's about you and your people. And we hope that the product helps them engage, gives them a skeleton of topics of conversation with each other. You know, if people are going through the program at the same time, to have discussion groups that, you know, can open up around each topic that are particularly relevant within the industry or within the organization, that whatever's going on stuff will be more pertinent for sure. I get that. But that was the driver, Kev, you know, to create more engagement, to create a framework for people to take that on.
Yeah, I think we just had a really good question from Lee Frimston. Would Steve and Roger agree that the mindset comes before the skill set in order to produce better results?
Yeah, everything in life.
Yeah, I mean, from our, you know, the simple performance model that we believe is that there are 3 parts to performance. One is skill, one is knowledge, and one is behavior. You can learn the skill. We know that people can learn skill. You can gain the knowledge, but a lot of people just think you've either got the behaviors or you haven't. And we would disagree with that. We would say, yes, a lot of this stuff will come more naturally to some than others, but you absolutely can learn behaviors if you have a growth mindset and you're willing to. It's just a little bit harder because it's easier to learn a skill because it's more logical. So for us, yeah, this is the behaviour piece. All the businesses we work with, you know, we can't help people with their skills and their knowledge because everyone, you know, are all experts in their own specific place of work. But the thing that we can help with is the mindset, behaviour piece. And absolutely, if people have a willingness to improve, often the greatest improvement in a business can come through the mindset, right? But often we focus on the skills and the knowledge first.
I think a lot of people have talked about the forthcoming challenge really ahead for businesses in terms of sustaining excellence, in terms of resilience and mindset. How much do resilience and mindset go together? It sounds obvious that they would, but in your experience, you know, where you've used this program already, where are the two things matching together, and what benefits are you bringing out for the clients you're working with?
I think resilience for many people comes with clarity. Motivation in the dictionary is defined as the direction and intensity of effort. And I think when people are motivated, we tend to think about the intensity of it. But when we have the direction lined up, when we have clarity in our hearts and our heads, and we have a clear vision, and we're pushing on, and we're optimistic, and we're passionate, and we believe, you know, it all starts to come together. It's why that our model of the rings kind of fits in, you know, because we appreciate they all interrelate and they all affect each other. But a little bit like in the construction industry, the architect will have the blueprints first before the building goes up. You know, it starts with a vision. It starts with a vision, and you know, the team will interact, and it will be first put on paper, and then in real life. It's the same in our heads and what we build for our future, and how we build that, and the taking responsibility for that is of paramount.
Absolutely paramount. Well, that brings us neatly to the end of the first of the sessions. Thank you, guys. I very much appreciate it if you would hold fire. And I know that other people may be about to join us. I'm not sure if the other sessions have managed to pull themselves back to the 1 o'clock turnaround as well as we have. I don't know, but we are bang on 1 o'clock at the moment. I know that the aim was for people to be able to join 2 sessions. And obviously Ben is now currently reminding people that they can change rooms. I can see that on screen. Sue Reed is about to start her leadership in the main room, and obviously we need to move things forward. So thank you guys once again, and back to you, Ben. I think, Ben, if you could just give us an insight now into where we are and what the other rooms are doing, that would be very, very helpful.
So yeah, anyone here, don't forget you can still click that button at the bottom of your screen to join a breakout room, in which case you'll now be joining a session kicking off with Neil Baton from Trustpilot. But if you're here for a session on leadership with Sue Reed, that will be kicking off momentarily. So I just sort of welcome Sue. You're on mute.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody. My session is going to take about 30 minutes, and I'm going to follow Steve and Roger's role model of being on time because I've set my timer. I'm delighted to say I'm one of the 15 BMF trainers, and what we're going to do is, let me just, Ben, there we go. I'm just going to stop for a moment and give you an opportunity just to read the mission statement of the BMF. And in particular, I'd like to point out supplying industry-specific training. I'm going to give you a free taster for the next 30 minutes on a program that is specific for one client that I've got their permission to share with you. And it's on a program called I Manage, I Lead, and I Inspire. It's going to take about 30 minutes. I'm going to ask for some help in the chat room in a moment. Who's the program for? The programme is aimed at managers being identified as potential leaders, as were in the case with Crossley, and who require a development programme to support them to reach their goals. But before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself when you become a leader. Success is all about growing others. The Manage, Lead, Inspire has 3 modules, which is leading yourself, leading my team, and leading the business. I tried this yesterday in our rehearsal and it didn't work very well, that nobody knew particularly who this person was. This is Alexander the Great on his horse, who's considered a leader in his time because of how he led his men in the army. I'm now going to give you an overview of the topics in the leadership module, which is a 1 day. The leader in you, going from good to great, understanding yourself, and you create a leadership shield. Next, we moved on to leading my team. As you'll see here, there's a graphic that's got, I plan, leading my team, I'm directing the employees, I'm organising them, and I monitor their goals and I evaluate them. But it's a bit more on that in leading my team. We brought Steven Spielberg into the programme and we asked you to design a film about leading your team, and we curated a team canvas. And if you hold fire for the rest of this programme, I'm actually going to show you what a team canvas looks like. We looked at performance management, that's also been mentioned, and if I only had time. Because time's the one thing that managers always have. You can't borrow it, you can't give it to somebody else, but you can use it wisely. We looked at managing conflict and managing change, and also the good old SMART acronym of setting objectives. This nicely links into actually what Roger and Steve were saying with regard to managers light a fire under people, and that's the passion, and leaders light a fire within people, that's the belief. So on your chat room, would you please mind just type in whether you're consider yourself a manager or a leader? Thank you, Paul, for being a leader. And Steve, the leader, thank you. Yeah, quite a few. So let's look at the topics that we covered in leading the business. Inspiring being a leader is giving good communication. It's giving a customer focus, especially in the industry, because we're driving for results to deliver from good to great customer service. It's also about effective delegation. And what we also included was doing a team talk. And then to bring it all together, we created a 30-day sales plan in how am I going to manage and how am I going to lead. So how was the program delivered? And I do have permissions from Crossley to show you this slide. So we use Scrabble to spell out the types of conflict from their colleagues and their customers. We buddied them together to work as buddies to apply what they've learned back in their branches. They self-reviewed their team dynamics using the Clarity 4D team profile. Animals were involved, sharks, owls and foxes, but I'm pleased to say none were hurt in the process. And what we also did was we said, right, you've got an hour to have a meeting with yourself to plan your 30-day sales plan of what you're going to apply back in the business. Because from the Inspire module, there were 7 topics. From Manage, there were 7 topics. And from Lead, there were 6. But can anybody in the chat room tell me, would you like to guess how many PowerPoint slides we used to deliver this 3-day program with 20 topics? So can somebody have a guess of how many PowerPoint slides we used? What have we got, Ben? So we've got John Newcomb who said none, David Millward said 40, Tim said none. John, you're pleased to say that you've won the prize. You will be getting a present in the post, Mr. Newcomb, because you're quite correct. At the BMF, as one of the trainers, we try and inspire ourselves to not be deaf like PowerPoint, to make it engaging and to make it fun. And yes, if you can see in the picture, there was a life-size store of Alexander the Great on his horse. But where did we start the program? We started at the team dynamics and we created a team canvas. And on the team canvas, it's just like we were talking about earlier, the why. What was the purpose of that team? What were the common goals that everybody had to buy in? What were the KPIs? Because if you're being measured, you can manage it. What were the rules and regulations? They could be health and safety, they could be process and procedures, and within our talks today, it could be sustainability. What were the strengths and assets in the team? What were the weaknesses and risks? And what was the management style? And what was the management style that they thought that their managers would manage them by? And most importantly, what were the team dynamics? So what we did was we asked the delegates to complete a team dynamics canvas that had on that canvas the purpose, the common goals, the key performance indicators, and they used this as a benchmark before coming on the programme. We also asked them to look at their team, and within their team, look at their technical capabilities, and also their people and customer skills and their behaviours, and what behaviours did they want to change. And this was a document that was sent to all delegates to complete before coming on the programme. This document then led that to be a 36-day sales plan. So who's the programme for is what we talked about. It's a taster. It is now currently in the process of being designed to be delivered virtually. I'm very pleased to say that Croslin have asked with regard to the BMF to go back and do another programme and then to follow up with high performance teams. We looked at the leadership quotes, Alexander the Great and Light the Fire, and the team canvas as a tool to where are you now, especially in the current times. You might like this tool to just stop, have a review of your team, your KPIs, your purpose, and how do you move things forward in this changing world. So Manage, Lead, Inspire is about leading self, leading my team, and leading the business. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about an example of a bespoke programme that was written by one of the members of the BMF. And if you would like a copy of the Word version of the team canvas, if you'd like to email Paige Gossin, she will send you a copy of the template as well as the case study from Croslin. Ben, I believe I have dutifully finished. Thank you.
Well done, Sue. Well done. I don't know if John's still there. Mr. Newcomb, are you still there?
Of course, I'm not going to miss my own event, Kevin. Well done, Sue.
I don't know if you might have sneaked into another breakout room or maybe for a coffee, but I just think it'd be appropriate if you closed off the session really rather than me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've lost a few people over the time, so but we're still amazingly we've still got over 70 people on the call, and Sue shocked me there because she actually finished early, so incredible. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and I hope you've got the most out of it. It's the first time we've done this type of event, and I hope you've borne with us throughout the whole event. And it wasn't too long, and it's just not seeing you all and your reactions is really difficult and frustrating. But we've tried to make the best of the circumstances, and I hope you've truly got some value out of the sessions. Finish by saying big thank you to Ben, folks, for all of the administrative support. So thanks, Ben. Obviously, June, who's done this as brilliantly as she would do a physical event. So well done, June. And obviously, I have to finish by thanking Kevin, who's had his own personal issues to deal with and health issues to deal with over the last couple of weeks. Kevin, it's great to see you back. It's great to see you hosting an event and to be front and center with the BMF. So yeah, just a personal thank you from me to you, Kevin, for hosting the whole event. And I guess to say, if people still want to join the latter part of the
Trustpilot
of the session, the Trustpilot session, they still can do, Ben, can they?
That's correct. Yeah, you can still collect that. So the meeting won't close until past because that breakout room is still going on. But,
yeah, maybe final appeal. Please book for the conference. We really need to have your support. As you can imagine, this has been a difficult decision in difficult times to take the upfront risk of all the costs associated with the conference. It's fantastic that I've just had One of the key sponsorships has already gone, and we've got a second interest, and we've already had bookings from people like Travis Perkins, MKM, Bradford. So thanks to all of you who've already booked for the conference. Do it today. Just drop us an email, tell us how many places you want to book, and if you're a sponsor, choose your sponsorship packages. We'd love to sell this event out in the next few weeks. I think we desperately need as an industry to come together again, and we certainly want to bring you together next June in Yorkshire. So please support us, sign up for the event, and get those early bird rates as well. And that's all from me. Thank you. Thanks, Ben.